How you going?
I am well.
Oh.
It's episode number 57.
57?
57 of Nick, Tys and Videotape.
Jesus.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
It's the return of our one of our favourite segments.
Oh, yeah.
It's on our list.
It's on our list. It's on the list.
It's on the list?
No, it's on the list. Could you say to someone, have you seen this, Tyson?
Yeah,
no,
I think I've called it
it's
on our list.
Oh, really? It's on our list? It's on our list.
I'll have to go for consistency.
I'm happy with that.
Whatever we called it originally.
We called it.
But yeah, this is the segment when we have a little look-see at a film that's kind of slipped through the cracks
that
everyone seems to have seen except for us.
Except for us, yeah.
And we don't know how that happened.
And I feel like everyone has seen this one.
I feel like everyone has seen this film. Although it's funny, some of the things that I've read on the internet have called it kind of like an undiscovered kind of film, and I'm like,
really?
I feel like Every Man and His Dog was
this.
running around singing the Shoop Shoop song in 1990. And
I was trying to do a Cher impersonation on the way home from work. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I don't.
Fuck a turn back towel.
Oh, that was not bad. Yeah, no. Everyone either, because everyone knew the song, they were like, oh, well, I'm going to go see the movie.
That's it. And we are, of course, talking about 1990s Mermaids.
Mermaids.
Starring Cher and the late, great Bob Hoskins. Winona Ryder. Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting chat about that one.
We'll get to that later.
It's our first time viewing for that film.
Mermaids.
Mermaids, indeed.
Yeah.
But
Before that, shall we talk some trailers?
Yes, let's do that.
Everybody's talking
trailers. That was quick. I feel like we've just smashed into that. Is there something else we usually say at the start? I'm not sure.
No, not really.
No, we're good?
No, we're good.
Very good. So, trailers this week.
All right, trailers this week. Shall we watch them as we do that? Or should we do that again?
Yeah, let's put it on the screen. I like that idea.
Yeah. Well,
so, what are we going to talk about first?
Let's talk about this first.
All right. So, we have... when
did this drop?
This trailer, I think it was pretty recent. I think it might have been within the last 48 hours or so.
Yeah.
And this is... You're going to have to just hold it.
Damn it. Are you serious?
No. So we're talking about a film called The Hotel
Artemis.
The Artemis is a secret hospital for criminals.
I thought you were done with all this.
I got out, but you know how it goes.
You're never out. Not up here.
I thought this place was a myth.
We've been here for 22 years. This hospital was built on two things: trust and rules.
You see that badge? That means I'm a healthcare professional.
You're an arms dealer, right?
Don't push my buttons. Don't you do that.
I'm a professional, but this woman, she's a business. If you knew what she could do to you with just that cup of coffee.
You're lucky this place has rules.
Now this trailer looks interesting enough. It appears to be the story of a
bank robbery.
Yeah, a bank robbery that goes askew.
Yeah.
Which leads the people that are committing the robbery to head to the Hotel Artemis, which is an underground kind of hospital for criminals. A secret hospital for criminals.
Yeah. Run by Jodie Foster.
By Jodie Foster. Random choice.
That is
Jodie
awesome.
Foster.
Yeah.
Like it's
and she's looking haggard.
But this is
I
good.
think
Like she's kind of she's obviously reaching kind of like
she's going for a different role now.
Into a different part of her career now, and I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
The choice that she's making to be like the matriarch of this hospital. So the thing that I'm most concerned about, so if I had just seen this trailer. Yeah. Without the awareness of another film series that we're about to talk about, I would probably think, wow, what a novel idea for a movie.
Original idea.
What an original idea. This could be really cool. And this is going to be like this action extravaganza, and it's all like this secret kind of underworld criminal world that we don't know about.
Because there's rules with this hospital.
Rules in the hospital.
And there's no guns allowed.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And it ends up obviously leading to some kind of raid-esque.
On the actual hospital itself.
Siege on the hospital itself. But sadly...
We've both
seen
John
Wick films. And it seems
and it's very much like that. It's
the
taking
hotel from John Wick.
John Wick, where you can go and they'll stitch you up. They have everything there,
and it's like a safe space for the assassins, where there are rules. You can't shoot anybody. You can't engage in any kind of gunplay while you're there.
Yeah.
And
it's a safe haven.
It is a safe haven, and
okay.
there's a very it's a very well respected code, and anyone who disrespects that is in big trouble and basically gets marks put out on them.
Absolutely. But what I liked about John Wick, and what I'm getting a sense of this, is that it's making its own world. That's what I like.
Yes.
And this is clearly gone, you know what? Has anyone seen John Wick? Let's do that.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
It just, look, So we might end up hearing about this guy, Dean Pearce, who has written a couple of things for Marvel, I believe. He wrote, he was on the writing team for Iron Man 3.
Oh, okay.
And he also directed, funnily enough, Hail to the King, the short.
Oh, right.
With the Mandarin, or Tony Slattery, anyway. So he's come from, Marvel.
It's Trevor Slattery.
Not Tony Slattery.
I love Trevor Slattery. He's my favourite.
Yeah.
Best villain ever.
Yeah, I love everything about Ben Kingsley in that film. I think it's fantastic.
Seriously.
So for all we know, he's been working on this since pre-John Wick.
Oh, that's true.
John Wick.
Jean Vic.
But, maybe, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
But I think most likely is that our friend Drew Pearce
saw John
was watching John Wick. I went, hey, that's cool.
Hey, I could do kind of my own spin on that.
Why don't I take that idea and just push it sideways a little bit?
Yeah. And instead of making it a hotel, I'll make it a hospital.
I'll make it a hospital.
Run by Jodie Foster.
Set in a hotel, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Where essentially it's all exactly the same.
There's cards, there's rules.
There's different. We've set up this universe that kind of is our reality, but in a heightened sense, where these things are perhaps a little bit more normal than what we perceive them to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I feel like this is.
But you've got a rad cast with this thing.
Well,
you've got Jeff Goldblum in here. You've got Charlie Day. You've got
This is like its own form of currencies away from a lawsuit. I reckon. Like if someone in there throws a coin that is like Artemis currency.
Yep.
Surely someone's going to get sued.
Hang on a minute. Yeah,
surely.
Exactly.
It's getting and I'm sure they must.
But it looks good.
But it does look like it could be really fun.
Yeah.
And Sophie Botella is, kicks ass. Like she's great. I'm
Always
a huge fan of her.
Always good.
She was very that Mummy film is not great by any stretch, but she was excellent in it. Yeah. Yeah, I saw it.
Oh wow.
I went and saw it at the cinema.
Oh, that's very interesting. We'll talk about that later off air.
I think I might have mentioned it on a show. Yeah, maybe.
Did we talk about it?
But that's how forgettable it is. 'Cause you can't even remember that I talked about seeing it. Yeah, I didn't hate it anywhere near as much as I think the public perception of it.
Yeah,
I was entirely indifferent.
I can see what they were going for, like bringing back all of those.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope they do it, and I hope
it's
they
not going to
fail.
happen now. It's going to fail. It's already failed miserably.
It's already failed. Everyone's backed out.
Yeah, everyone's just gone. Nope, not interested.
Zachary Quinto. That's another one who's in this thing.
It's a really interesting cast. We've got everyone's favourite at the moment, Jeff Goldblum, who just kind of turns up and Goldblooms all over the place, and everyone loves him for it.
Everyone's okay with that.
Yep, absolutely.
As if you're not okay with that.
The action sequences look like they're going to be kind of stylized, heightened kind of style as well. Potentially could be a really enjoyable watch, but I feel like it's going to be hard to separate that knowledge, though, that you're kind of watching somebody's
you're watching
John Wick
rip-off. Yeah,
and not even like a rip-off in the way that Atomic Blonde was. Let's do John Wick, but with a woman, with Charlize. Yeah. It really feels to me the most similar kind of comparison I can draw.
Yep.
Do you remember Repo the Genetic Opera?
Oh, yes, I do remember that. So I own that.
I do not own it, but I can watch the hell out of it. It's a disaster, but there's some pretty great stuff in it.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I have to watch it again. But I went in because that trailer, talking about trailers that sell you, I watched that trailer and went, I am in. Apart from the fact that Paris Hilton is in this thing, I'm going to buy it flat out because it was cheap. Yeah. I worked at JB at the time, went, done, I'm in.
Yeah.
And fuck me, was I disappointed.
It was that movie was more of a disappointment than anything else because I think I was the same thing. I went in with really heightened expectations. It was a legitimate horror musical. So I was already kind of like, all right, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed a couple of Saw films and another film that was, he did the 11/11 movie. Do you remember when 11/11 was a thing? And everyone was freaking out because it was like, oh my God, it's 11/11/11.
Oh my God.
And so...
And everyone else was like, calm down, this happens like every year.
Yeah,
fuck off.
No, but like to have it on 11th of November 2011 at 11:11 a.m., that's pretty...
That's insane. Oh my God.
Everyone should stop doing what they're doing and just let that minute pass and don't do anything stupid during that because you're asking for fucking trouble.
Oh, I hope a dimension opened and we just didn't notice.
Everyone just went about their business and it was fine.
And now we have demons running the earth. Yep. And he's in now.
And so I had some pretty goodwill for that, and it's disappointing, but I still think there's some stuff going on. But the central concept of that, the idea that you're in the future, when you need a transplant for any reason, it gets leased to you.
Yeah.
So it's because
you have to pay you
basically have to pay installments. So people that are like, I have, a genetic heart disease, and so you get a heart transplant. This is in a time where obviously medical advancements are taking place. Do heart transplants happen? You can't have a heart transplant, can
I'm pretty sure. I
don't know.
I'm 85% sure you can. I could be wrong. I've
like,
been wrong before. I feel like maybe the heart is one that you can't.
It's kind of the ones. It's like the brain. You can't have a brain transplant.
No, you can have a brain transplant. Yes, you can.
What?
Yes, you can. I'm pretty sure you
just
can.
end up a different person.
Do I have to Google? I'm Googling.
All right, well, you Google what I talk about. Anyway, the conceit of that.
Give it a Googs.
Got lifted out
right.
and inserted into this bad action thriller starring Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker.
Yes, that's true.
Called Repo Man, which
Man.
was the same conceit.
Yeah, without the musical.
Without the musical element to it. And I remember thinking, is someone getting sued? Like, someone's got to be getting sued here.
Seriously.
And that's what I think this is on similar footing. I think it's someone's taken a certain part of a film and just lifted it out and put it into another film and changed just enough so that people that maybe aren't fully aware of that first film will find this original. How anyone the audience for this film, though, is the John Wick audience. So I kind of feel like they've shot themselves in the foot a little bit.
I'm still going to see it, though.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it.
Do you know what I mean?
Especially if it's reviewed well.
Yeah, and with that cast, I'm in. Anything with Quinto and...
It is a good cast. Charlie Day. We like Charlie Day.
We like Charlie Day. And he's doing something different in here. He's not just being Charlie Day. Well, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. He could be doing the same
He'll be
thing.
there for comic relief. There's absolutely no doubt.
Absolutely. But hey, if it's comic relief by Charlie Day, I'm in.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jenny Slate is in this thing as well.
Oh,
Dave
I saw
Bautista.
Her pop up for like one little second.
One little
I was
second.
like, Jenny Slate. I love her.
And Sterling K. Brown, what has he done?
That TV show, he just won the Emmy or the Golden Globe or whatever for actor in a drama for This Is Us or whatever.
Yeah.
The one with like Milo Ventimiglia and Mandy Moore and
no idea who these people are.
I don't know. They're all apparently like the siblings of the one guy. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Actually, I haven't got no idea. I shouldn't be.
Well, moving on to current topics, you can get a heart transplant.
Well, there you go.
The person that you're getting the heart transplant from needs to be deceased in order to get that, obviously.
Yes, I would assume.
But you can't rent it from.
It's a wonder that we're not in medical school.
Look, we're not. And
we're
that's
obviously
fine.
we're obviously
we do
all
a
over
movie
this
podcast, which is just as good. Just as good. If anything, it's just as good.
Jesus. We're doing as much for the world as heart surgeons.
No, we're not. We're really not. What else should we talk about? We've got
there was Hot Summer Nights.
Hot Summer Nights.
Called Hot Summer Nights.
Yeah.
You're spending the summer with your Auntie Barb.
Sending me away for the summer. What a cliche.
So you're from here?
Yeah. Wait. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Ew.
Hide this. You get high?
That was actually not bad.
Timothy Chalamet, who's becoming quite a recognizable face now after Call Me by Your Name and Lady Bird. Even though I didn't like him in Lady Bird at all, I thought he was pretty terrible in that film. But having said that, apparently he's fantastic in Call Me by Your Name. So
what was it called again? The one we're talking about?
Hot Summer Nights.
Hot Summer Nights.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Red Hot Summer?
No, Hot Summer Nights.
Okay.
Hang on. What?
No, I think it's Red. Is it Red Hot Summer?
Oh, maybe the US already have this. No.
Okay.
Disregard what Nicholas is talking about.
Sure. I think it's been doing festivals and stuff, so it just doesn't have wide release yet.
Okay.
It looks to be quite an interesting film.
Wow.
Like
writer-director's first go of it.
Yeah,
Elijah Bonham, which is always...
It has that look about it.
It does.
Looks like somebody's it looks like it has a vision. It has a very clear kind of idea of
first album,
someone.
baby.
Yeah, that's it. First album syndrome. And it looks like it's a pretty interesting mix of kind of comedy, coming of age, slash
blow,
drug,
sort
drama,
of
thriller.
Drama. That's not going to end well, never ends well.
No, it never ends well.
Yeah.
It's we got Minka Kelly is in that as well from
Yes.
It Follows and
It Follows, that's true.
Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah. And Alex Rowe. Do I know him from? No, I don't.
William Fichtner though. Oh, we get a bit of the Fichtner. He makes everything better.
He does.
I don't know about this. It's hard to describe from the trailer. It does look really interesting, though. I recommend people having a bit of a look.
No, I think you nailed it on the head. It is a coming of age movie where the kid kind of doesn't really know where he's going right now, and obviously gets a taste of illegal drugs and goes,
well, it seems to me that he's just selling pot to start with.
Yeah,
and
but if this is going to get me women and money, then why the hell not?
Then he seems like, maybe that's the way to go. It's funny though because I mean, you describe it like that, and it sounds like it's like a cautionary tale kind of film. I don't think that's the vibe at all. No. I think it's actually kind of quite light until obviously maybe towards the end. But then again, maybe the trailer is misleading because maybe that kind of because it has like indie comedy vibes about it. There's some funny lines. There's moments where
it seems very PG at the start, almost like, what's he doing? And then he's kind of handed this pot, and then he's.
But it's all kind of it's fun. It's like kind of not teen comedy, but along those lines, indie comedy, where it's like the humor more comes from not straight out jokes, but just because you're seeing people in these situations that lend you to have a giggle.
And Empire Records before, and then turns dark at the end, sort of thing. Instead of everyone dancing on the roof.
Yeah. And that's it. The trailer kind of points that it may actually switch on a dime and just actually become a pretty heavy thriller towards the end. But you don't know. I'd
be all over this if I was a teenager.
I'm very keen on it. I think it was a really well put together trailer. And I'm keen to watch that, I think. So what was it called again, though? I should fucking get the title right. Hot Summer Nights or Red Hot Summer Nights? No.
No, it's Hot Summer Nights.
Hot Summer Nights.
Hot Summer Nights.
Hot in the city. Hot in the city tonight.
How good is this cover, though? Look at that poster. That's
it's actually got a real kind of,
drive.
A bit of an 80s kind of throwback vibe to it, a bit of neon.
It is set in the 80s.
Well,
the hat.
I didn't gather that.
Yeah, because the hat that he had on was it Vote for Reagan or Vote for...
that wasn't like some hipster bullshit that he found in an op shop?
Maybe. I could be
I'd have
wrong.
to read the synopsis. I maybe should have done some research and actually read the synopsis.
Look, we have bare minimum time to do this shit.
No,
I'm kidding. We have all week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We could try researching.
We could.
Once or twice.
No, we're not going to.
No. But there's that one. I don't even care. Let's not even worry about it.
No. Was there anything else?
Did you watch the one for Dark Crimes?
No. I didn't watch this.
Let's pause.
Can we pause?
Let's pause and watch it.
Yeah.
The murder happened here. I want the case.
Be careful. They will come after you.
We have a suspect, a crime writer.
His victim's body had the markings of someone choked to death using a fisherman's knot.
Only the killer could know those facts. I think the book is your confession.
Okay, we're back. You've watched it.
Hello.
Dark what?
Dark Crimes.
Dark Crimes.
Dark
Crimes. Jim Carrey.
Jim
Carrey's back, baby.
Jumping into a role because you know that Jim, after the documentary that you've recently watched, he is going to jump into a role straight in the deep end.
He does. But remember, let's not forget the number 47 or whatever it was fucking called.
The nines or something.
27?
27? Was it 27? God, that was awful. I really wanted that to be good. I wanted that to be, because it was right around the time, well, it wasn't, but it was coming off the time where I watched the late Robin Williams do his serious seriousness, 1 hour photo and things like that.
And kind of think, Jim
Carrey's going to have a go, yeah.
Well, I mean, Jim Carrey's...
wow, what was that?
Jim Carrey's an excellent dramatic actor.
Yeah, man.
And it was, I've always been almost more of a fan of his
serious stuff.
You've
said that before,
more like I've never, I think there was excitement in him doing like a real legit thriller.
Yeah.
But that number's fucking garbage.
But that's
that movie's
the
garbage.
Number 23, that's what it was.
23?
The number 23.
God, you could have offered me $1 million and I would have said any other number but 23. I would have been like 27, 47.
Nines? Isn't nines? Oh no, that's Ryan
Reynolds. The
Reynolds.
Reynolds, yeah. There's another one like with numbers that makes people go crazy, isn't there?
The Ninth Gate, Johnny Depp? No?
Yeah, that's a good one.
What's another one? Ocean's 11.
Isn't there another evil number one?
Is there?
Not like 666, but like there's some other fucking mark.
My favourite, 7. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's maybe what I was thinking of.
Top 10 films of all time.
So this trailer though,
No, you're
so,
not
okay,
in.
so
Well,
look,
come on.
potentially, I think it looks pretty cheap, whatever it is. It looks like it was filmed in like an incredibly small European country.
Yeah.
That they were like, found the cheapest location they possibly could.
Absolutely.
And managed to make this film.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about it is that it looks like it's been around for a little while. It's directed by someone, a non-Hollywood director.
A non-Hollywood?
I looked it up and now I can't remember who it was. Now,
go on.
It looks like it's been around for a little while. Like it's maybe it's
sat on the shelf for a bit.
Maybe a bit of shelf sitting.
Yeah.
I think it's done some festivals and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But one thing I found really interesting about that trailer was that they wanted to include critic lines.
Lines, yes. They did,
lines from some reviews and stuff. But I'm starting to think that this film was not particularly well reviewed from the critics.
Damn it.
Because the ones that they chose to include are like...
An IMDb comment?
Well, it's the kind of ones that could have come very easily from horrible reviews.
Yeah.
Like something like... it's not this, but it could be this. An incredibly talented cast.
Yes, that I remember. I just read that.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yep,
but
sure.
does that mean anything? Like, it's got fucking Charlotte Gainsbourg. Is that no?
Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Yeah. Like so, and she's usually, she's not just doing any old fucking thing.
No, that's true.
Except
she's
when
normally...
Lars von Trier calls her and says, "Do you want to have sex with a bunch of dudes?"
That wasn't her. They used a lot of porn actors for that.
Yeah.
A lot of close-ups. But yeah, she got down the dirty for Nymphomaniac. That's what Tys is talking about for those of you playing the home game.
Yeah, Lars von Trier, garbage.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. It was all right. It stuck with me. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Lars, but anyway. But yes, I do. Now that you've said it,
and there was
like
one other thing,
like
like Jim Carrey commits to the role or something.
No, he dives head first.
Dives head
and
first. That is a line that could be misread either way.
Oh, that could go different.
Yeah. I read that multiple ways. I read that as it's like an actor has gone over the top and is really kind of unaware of the film that he's in. And
really?
And as opposed to because.
But this is where I don't listen to Don't listen to critics and stuff.
But if they wanted to include them, they clearly had a wide variety of things and these were the best that they could get. These kind of open-ended. Maybe this was from a good review, but probably not. And so that kind of I looked at it, I'm like, well, you probably should have just not included them at all. Because now that's all I can think of when I watch that trailer is I think that's the best you could find. Not even one thing saying Carey gives an incredible performance or Carey gives I
think the line was Jim Carrey dives headfirst and commits to a role that is very dark. And I was like, oh, that was...
I gathered that from the trailer.
No, you gathered that from the poster.
Yeah, from the poster, yeah. Yeah, so I found it really interesting.
No, I don't like to listen to those things, though.
No,
I want to go in.
No, but I'm the same. But
I watched the number 23 and went, "Wow, what a piece of shit."
I've managed to avoid most of that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I say that because I've watched some of it and went, "Well, this is garbage."
Yeah,
didn't watch anymore.
Yeah. I have the thing where I can't. If I'm watching a movie like that, there is only about 5 or 6 movies that I've turned off halfway through and gone, "I am done." I remember. What was the Mars one that came out with Ice Cube? It was John
Ghosts
Carpenter.
of Mars.
That's the one. I've turned that off. I went, this is not what I wanted. Get fucked, and I turned it off. Pam Grier, I'm sorry, I love you, but what the fuck is this shit?
That's a real shame.
I know. I've heard that.
Ghosts of Mars.
I'm not doing it again. I'm sorry. I can't. I know you do, but to be honest, Tyson,
love is a strong word, but. I'd watch the hell out of a shittier John Carpenter movie than 99% of other movies.
Yeah.
Because at least there's something going on.
Yeah, fair deal. Look, I'll give this a watch. I'm not going to pay for it. I'll definitely stream it. But, I'll give Jim Carrey the benefit of the doubt. If he's put his...
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I really do. Because I feel like he doesn't just choose... Otherwise, we would see so much more of him if he didn't care about the kind of projects he did.
Exactly, and we know what I was going to say before. We know he commits to a role. If he jumps in and he's done that because he's not playing an American, he's playing a Russian.
Is he?
Detective? Yeah, he's got that accent.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I like his big beard.
Yeah, I can't grow a beard.
Oh.
I like beards, but I can't. I look better without one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have been told that. I also look better without them, but
really?
I will continue to have them.
Oh, good one.
Mostly my moustache.
Yeah.
People don't like my moustache.
No, I like your moustache.
I fucking love my
It's
moustache.
fucking nice. It's a nice moustache. I really think you should kind of do the Tony Stark a little.
Maybe for Infinity War. I'll do a little bit of a
you can Stark it up a bit.
Manicured goatee.
Yeah.
Can you manicure it? Because it's not really...
Yeah, you can, yeah.
But
manicure a goatee?
isn't it manicuring
nails?
a
That's
nail
true.
thing?
That is a.
So you need to contour.
No, that's makeup.
My goatee.
Sure. Let's leave it at that. I had a friend, Ed, from when I worked at Borders. He was from he called it KL, and I thought he was so badass, but he was from Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
That's why they call it KL. And he used to pull off the maddest Tony Stark, and that was when Iron Man 1 came out.
Yeah, all right.
And I was like, dude, you've got to tell you look boss. He's like, I know, I did on purpose. I'm like, you look rad.
Now that Robert Downey Jr.'s done it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay.
It's okay to do it. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because Charlie Sheen does it, and everyone goes, no.
All
right, well, I think that's trailers.
I reckon that'll wrap us up for trailers.
Yeah.
We're
not linger too long.
There was one that I haven't even watched for a larger movie, and I couldn't even be bothered, and now I can't remember what it was. So
really?
Let's not even worry about it.
We had Incredibles 2, and we had another Ocean's 8, and all of that stuff. But we've talked about them before.
We have talked about them.
So we're not going to talk about them again.
The Meg.
The Meg? I didn't watch that one.
No, I watched it, and I am not interested.
No? Pass on the Meg.
You'd think it would be something I'm pretty interested in, but I'm not.
You're going to have a full pass on the Meg?
A full pass, I think, yeah.
Yeah, fair deal.
If anyone's interested, it's Jason Statham versus a giant shark. A giant shark.
A giant shark.
And look, believe me, it sounds like something I'd be all over, but I have watched that trailer, and...
Wow. It's a pass from Tyson.
I don't care.
And Tyson says, and your audience, just for those of you playing the home game, Tyson has said yes to Hurricane. What is it? No,
Hurricane Heist.
Hurricane Heist.
I would watch Hurricane Heist 4 times before I watch the Meg, I reckon. For some reason, sharks don't do it for me. Do you know it's weird?
Are you fucking
insane?
I
don't care. Like, I'm not
Where
interested in
does Jaws
shark
rank
movies.
for you, though?
Yeah,
Tyson.
but I'm talking about, like, Deep Blue Sea and,
pass.
like, Shark Night and The Shallows and 47 meters down and all that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of like, nah.
Deep. What was the one that went for like 45 minutes? What was that one? Did you say?
Open Water.
Open Water.
I actually like Open Water.
I like
a lot.
Open Water as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
Because you don't see sharks.
No, you don't see shit. It's actually just a thriller with those two panicking in the water.
Yeah, I found their performances really quite excellent.
Yeah,
so
that would have been a bitch to film too.
Yeah, it would have.
But yeah, I'm the same as you. I had a acquaintance who really liked. She wouldn't shut the fuck up about Deep Blue Sea, and I'm like, dude, I do not fucking
Deep Blue
care.
Sea is not a good film.
Fucked.
Deep Blue Sea is
shark with brains. Go get fucked.
It's like it is trash, and it's at a point where it's like, if I even am just like, well, this is garbage.
Yeah,
it's on the same level as like Snakes on a Plane for me. Like it's like. I've seen it.
Yeah,
I'm not interested.
I'm not going to do it.
It's not even that much fun for me. And I know that's I'm being really a cranky puss, and I'm probably might just be in a bad mood. But you know what I mean? Like, I've never watched Snakes on a Plane again because I watched that first time and I was like, this is just rubbish. Yeah. And that's how I feel about Deep Blue Sea. Strangely enough.
Good deal. Good deal. All right then. But you did watch it. It's because we got it for free at the video store. Same as Lake Placid.
Oh, I love Lake Placid.
And Anaconda.
Not a shark movie. Anaconda's
Anaconda, man.
Pretty bad.
It's bad, but it's fucking
John
good.
Voight's doing like this ridiculous Cajun thing. It's so
funny.
And I get your snake for you.
I have no idea what that was. And J-Lo, man. J-Lo.
Early J-Lo.
Yeah.
I was on television the other day on Foxtel. I caught a little bit of.
Yeah.
The Cell.
Oh.
And I love The Cell.
I love The Cell.
And she's great.
Tarzim Singh.
Yeah.
One of my favourite. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that movie.
We will.
Yeah.
Let's move on because we're just rambling
We
now.
are rambling now.
Let's get to our...
Feature press, people. Yeah. Feature press!
And now for our feature presentation.
Do we start with like a... Does he... No, I'm not going to do it.
Does he... No, that wasn't good either.
Does he love
that's too nice.
me? I want to know.
How can I tell if you love me so?
That's not bad. That's not bad.
It's getting there.
It's getting there.
I feel like I'm just doing Eddie Vedder doing it though.
Oh, really? We're not doing that again. We're leaving that because that was a perfect.
Cher and Eddie Vedder have the same little inflection on.
No, they don't have the same
they do.
anything.
They got the same.
No, they don't. No. There's difference between Cher, whatever she's doing, and Eddie Vedder's Jarl.
Yeah.
Because a Jarl is what it's called, what Eddie Vedder does.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's on our list.
It's on our list. Here we are, people.
1990s mermaids.
Mermaids.
This was an interesting choice. I can't remember actually how we ended up picking this. I think we just
literally went down a list.
We were scanning through. I think what I ended up doing is I was
gone. It was 90s movies that we hadn't seen. Before.
I went online.
That's
I was
right.
I looked at 90s movies that everyone has seen and everyone talks about, and I looked at BuzzFeed articles and I looked at all these kind of things, of that ilk. Where it's just like, oh, hey, do you remember these fucking movies? Like, basically these websites that just list a bunch of stuff that make you go, oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I remember that. Now I've wasted my
That's it, and I wasted
break.
10 minutes looking at
fucking bullshit
pictures of that shit.
Yeah.
And so just went through and made a big list of what I hadn't seen. And the list, it's not a massive list at all, because the 90s is kind of the decade I think I've seen the most of.
We were at the
and
video store.
and one that stuck out was Mermaids. And I was kind of like, I've never seen Mermaids.
No, neither have I.
Everyone talks about Mermaids.
I know. And I'm a mad sucker for the what would essentially be the girly flick. Huge.
Yeah,
sucker.
well, actually, that kind of... I haven't seen many of those. I haven't seen Now and Then.
I was all over Now and Then.
I haven't
when I was
seen,
a kid.
Sisterhood of the Travelling Pants.
That was I was a bit too old to watch.
Yeah, that was
I
later.
felt. Yeah.
That was like the next... That was 10 years or so later. But... Maybe even more. That was late 90s, wasn't it? Yeah. Or early 2000s?
I think it was 2000s. So I was I think I was at Borders when that happened.
Yeah, so I've and look, it's not my market. I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
No,
it was
8-year-old boy is not lining up to see Mermaids. Like, you know what I mean? But what I found interesting is it's one of those films that just... Because you could put it in like a similar category as something like...
Go
on. I don't know, I'm trying to think of... Like that era's like it reminds me of these kind of MGM comedies.
Yeah, keep going. I think you know what you're
from that era.
Yeah, the one that I looked up. This is similar
for the boys. Let's say For the Boys.
Oh,
this is like a really
for
random.
The Boys is kind of a bit more dramatic.
It is a bit more dramatic, I reckon.
But I know what you're talking about because I looked it up and the director did. I'm like, what does this director do? And the other thing that
Richard Benjamin.
Yeah, the other thing that he did was My Stepmother as an Alien. Remember that? With Kim
I've never seen it, but
right. But it was kind of those style.
Funnily enough, Milk Money, one of his other films, I have seen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. I think it was just on television.
Oh, really?
And I'm just like, yeah, I'll watch this, whatever.
What was the Tom Hanks one he did?
He did The Money Pit.
The Money Pit
with
that
Shelley
was
Long.
always on TV.
I'm a big fan of that
I remember the second floor thing falling in.
Yeah. The funny thing about Money Pit for a long time when I was young, I used to think the Money Pit was the Burbs. And so so I love the Burbs.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, the Money Pit's on. And I'd sit down and watch it and I'm like, this isn't right. What is happening?
Where's the Burbs bit?
Yeah. But yeah, so there were quite a few of this kind of era that I have seen,
those comedies
that were designed more. Well, I'd even hesitate to call this a comedy.
Yeah, that's true.
But there were a lot of a lot of movies that were designed specifically for a female audience around the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and I've seen quite a large portion of them.
Yeah, man.
And this was quite a popular one. For some reason, I just never decided to watch it.
Yeah.
It was on television a shit ton when we were growing up.
Fried green tomatoes.
I've never seen Fried Green Tomatoes. There you go.
I think we're going to have to end up doing movies that Tys has seen that Nick hasn't seen, and movies that
it might be a good way to approach it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of movies that we need to like that I've seen that you haven't, and you've seen that I haven't.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll get to that.
We will get to that.
But yeah,
and so now having seen it, I feel like after today, I feel like it's a little bit of a diamond in the rough for me.
Yeah, you liked it.
I really liked it. I had an exceptionally good time watching this.
It was a warm film.
It's very warm. It's really lovely.
It was a lovely time.
I came out of it thinking that it's going to be a movie that I want to watch again.
Oh, really?
And I'm going to watch it again like in the future. I'll be like, on a Sunday afternoon, I'll be like, I just want to watch a nice movie that makes me feel nice.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be something like this.
In saying that, there were just pockets that shat me, but...
Yeah, but I mean...
But on a whole...
On a whole, I think it's lovely. Yeah, I think it's really lovely. And
was.
It's funny that I was under the impression that this was an incredibly successful and well-reviewed film.
Oh, right. I have no idea.
Do
people like it?
No, not really.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's actually... And so at the end of the film, I was like expecting to be like...
where have you been?
Yeah, like people kind of saying it's
going,
this. Yeah, it was wonderful. It's such a feel-good movie. It's beautiful. The relationships are so heartwarming and well thought out, and blah blah blah. Performances are all great, and there was actually quite a lot of love for Winona Ryder's performance,
right?
Who I think does a very good job.
Okay.
So she's not the best thing in the film, I don't think, for me.
That's Cher, hands down.
Yeah, Cher she's
spot on.
So
isn't she?
good, so good. We'll get to her in a minute.
Yeah.
And so it was generally reviewed as like, yeah, it was fine.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, I thought it would be a little bit more loved.
Is that because it's coming off the back? Because Cher... There was a section there where Cher was in a lot of movies. She did Mask, which everyone references now because of Family Guy. That was just horrible. Well, I actually love Mask. And the other one...
I've never seen it. I might have been freaked out as a kid.
Oh, fair deal.
It was like, I don't want to watch this. Yeah.
Fair deal. And then there's the one that I've wanted to see forever, which she won the Oscar for, which is Moonstruck. Yeah. So is this coming off the back of that and then maybe, Cher's lost her luster? Is that what's happening here?
Perhaps.
Because I feel that that's maybe what would have happened.
The general consensus that I was finding is that it had a bit of a notorious production.
Yeah, I read a little bit of that. Yeah.
And so, oh man, IMDb is not working. Is your IMDb working?
Yes, it is.
It's bad news that we're doing a movie podcast and my IMDb fucking shuts down.
Jeez.
Don't you know what's going on
here? God damn it. No, my IMDb is working. What do you need?
I was just going to find out because I think Moonstruck was prior. This Moonstruck was 87, I think.
Let's look at Cher's back catalogue, shall we?
Yeah, and so maybe it was the awareness of the production drama, which I didn't know about until after I'd watched it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that actually kind of coloured people's perception at the time. Maybe people were kind of... Because you know what it's like when you hear about a train wreck of a production.
Oh.
Like, for instance, let's talk Justice League,
right?
So we carry that into the movie with us because we're so aware of the shitstorm that was the making of it.
That's true.
That we sit down and
Which
go,
fuck,
I can't wait to see what pile of dog shit they managed to...
comes out with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So knowing that it had
harsh.
3 different directors, they replaced the Winona Ryder character, the actress playing her...
Yeah.
A couple of weeks into filming.
And she came in, she shot, she then sued.
She said, no, not interested
and got
in it.
like a percentage of the film.
Yeah,
like what the fuck?
And they went through like good directors before they settled with this guy, Richard Benjamin, who I know best as the fucking one of the actors in Westworld. Yeah. Like I actually didn't realize until I went to his filmography that he directed a few movies that I'd seen that do not have any kind of like calling card style to them. Like you don't look at this film and go, oh man, it's a Richard Benjamin film, isn't it? It's really like, you know, this could be directed by anyone. It could have been directed by a sock on a fucking stick. And I reckon we would have got pretty close to this same kind of...
But in saying that, it wasn't poorly directed.
It wasn't incompetent in any way. But I think but there was no basically
style
just let
to
the
it.
camera...
He was like, no, we're going to put the camera here and shoot the
And look,
shot.
maybe I'm being a bit harsh because maybe it was actually... Maybe he's more of an actor's director and he lets the performances speak for themselves and just puts the camera up and says, hey, are we all in shot? Excellent, great. We're just going to do some basic kind of over shoulder.
I'm going to count my money over here. You do your thing.
Or he gets in there and works with the actors and kind of...
Does it like that?
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just interject for just 1 second. So 1987, Witches of Eastwick, right? We're going off the back of that. Then there was Suspect. Then there was Moonstruck. And then there was Mermaids. So she's on a roll. That was a roll just there. Because I remember Suspect doing quite well. Do you remember
Witches of Eastwick? I've never seen it, but I do know. I remember the poster really well.
Yeah.
No, Witches of Eastwick I've seen it and love.
Yeah. Suspect was Peter Yates and...
Peter Yates?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then her and Dennis Quaid. And then it was Moonstruck, so she won the Oscar for that.
Yeah.
So you've got to think, she just won the Oscar.
Right.
And then Mermaids came out.
So maybe it's people are being a bit harsh in their judgment of her performance, which...
She did a boss job.
Well,
okay.
I personally, I think she's stunning, and it's made me.
Can we just have a moment for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Cher is a goddess.
Yeah.
In this, I'm like, God damn, man,
just stunning,
like just insanely stunning.
And I think it's actually like watching her performance. I think I always kind of underrated her.
Yeah.
Underestimated her ability as an actress. I think I was always like, Cher, she's a singer, and she had that one lucky part. Moonstruck and got her Oscar, but now she's a bit of a laughing, like a bit of a joke. She is because unfortunately she's done a lot of work to her face and stuff like that, and that's fine.
I tune that too. Do you know what I tune that to? I tune that to bad drag queen versions of Cher.
Sure,
that's what I. Yeah. No. I think she's fine. I think maybe she's holding on to something that's maybe in the lines of Celine Dion and things like that. Yeah. Maybe just stick to Vegas, sure, but still, I think because of the so many drag queen performances I've seen done off her, which is fine, but
she will have a lasting legacy regardless.
Absolutely,
because there are a few songs in there that are ripe for that kind of entertainment. She's a bit of a gay icon and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing like she can choose to do whatever she likes to her face, and that's fine.
Sure,
but it has unfortunately left her kind of in a position where she doesn't work as much anymore, and she's not really a target of anything like that. We had that burlesque film, which I have zero interest in whatsoever.
And I think we should do a podcast on it.
God, I just even like I remember when it came out, like it gave me like headaches.
I think we should have. Yes, it gave me headaches too.
Not even watching the film, like just knowing of its existence gave me a headache.
I think we should do a new segment called Train Wrecks.
Train Wrecks, yeah.
And just have that. Man. We'll do that.
But watching her in this, I've just got this new appreciation that I don't think I've had prior.
Oh, really?
Where I've just sat down and watched her in some of these scenes. And I'm just blown away by her skill. Like she
knows what she's doing.
She's stunning in this film, and she is just doing such a great job.
And
I'm going like it made me look up her IMDb and go, what else can I watch with Cher right now? Because I'm ready to watch. And I'm like, I've been always kind of like, I should watch Moonstruck. I really should watch it.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see that.
It's jumped to the top of my list.
Be brave and give Mask a go.
I think it's probably time. I mean, it's like
Plus, it's got Sam Shepard.
I love a bit of fucking Sam
as if you're
Shepard.
passing up Sam Shepard.
I know. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it's really heartwarming. But it's similar to a lot of films of that era. Like
I had to write it down, so I'm gonna just read out what I wrote down.
Yeah,
because
go for it.
I was drawn to her character. She was my favorite. Winona aside, I actually prefer the Christina Ricci character over her because she was so cute, funny. But and for me, we'll get to Winona, but for me, because she was so strong, so direct, and she had her flaws, but she owned them.
Yeah.
Like, sure, she ran away from her problems and that was a thing, but just her having the conversation at the end with Winona and then just having that conversation about her father, I was like, this is lovely. Like, her coming in going, you need to not talk to me right now because I am fucking livid. And just walking around and doing what she was doing, and I was like, this is awesome. This is so awesome. I love this.
Stunning delivery, like that scene. And look, it earns its place as the finale of the film. I think that kind of that meeting of the two of them that we've been avoiding for all this time. This real kind of like sit down and understand each other that I think we've been tiptoeing around for most of the film.
Yeah. Because this morning, going off that, what you just said, this morning I was like, I wanted more from that. I'm like, and then thinking about it today, I was like, well, no, Nick, that was what the movie was building up to her to sit down and have a conversation with her daughter, which didn't happen.
I think it's
and
actually,
then, that's a big deal,
It's funny because there are certain parts of this movie that, while I was watching it, I was marveling at its ability to stay simple, to stay small, and to actually make it about really just small things that we sometimes overlook in these kind of films because it all has to be about these big dramas.
Exactly.
And we need to have all these awful things happening. It needs to be huge, Whereas I really was loving how it was just small stuff. Yeah. It was allowing realistic family interactions to just dictate the story.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Mermaids, by the way.
Spoilers for Mermaids.
Of course. I feel like we just always have to mention spoilers, though, because some fuckhead will be like, oh, fuck.
Oh, come on, man. I didn't know it was going to... Why is it a guy? Why are we doing a guy?
It's always some angry internet guy. It's some...
Why did you spoil Mermaids for me, asshole?
Oh, well, now I can never watch Mermaids. Fuck you. But, for instance, I was watching it, and I was really kind of enjoying that, and then... she almost drowns, and I was like, I think maybe the strength of this film was in the stuff when they didn't push it to those limits, where they allowed it just to be like truthful family dynamic drama,
which was what you got in the end. Like it was,
and that's what I'm saying. That conversation actually was really lovely. It was just a shame that the driving force to that was maybe something a little extreme.
Exactly, and I loved how it didn't. Yes. I want to talk about the narration of Winona in a minute.
Yeah.
But in that narration, you got the fact that she was missing that father figure.
Yeah.
But the thing was, you got it here and there, but it wasn't forcing it down your throat. And the end result was she just wanted to talk about her dad with her mum.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's good. That's a good thing. And that can be what the end of the movie is about. Instead of... oh my God, Christina Ricci, and she almost drowned, and all this big, massive thing that ends up with them, appreciating each other a little bit more. Rather than that, let's just have a conversation, set it in reality, and have it be it.
Yeah. I think I can see there's two things happening, I reckon, in the Christina Ricci's about to drown scene.
Yeah.
There's either, well, there's one of two things. It can either be a filmmaker that...
Go on.
Because it's based on a book, so I'm sure it happens in the book, and I'm sure it's explained. I'm sure it's worded in a better way.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Dr.
Pepper time. But for me, speaking of fucking Lars von Trier, it was a bit Antichrist, man. It was like it was about to be the death of the person because people were fucking.
Because people were having sex.
Yeah. And we're ignoring their
not only having sex, having sex for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, that poor.
And so
the
the juxtaposition of let's get wanky,
but it's a word.
It's the word that suits what we're about to explain.
Yeah.
Was effective, but in a different movie, like in something with some real stakes. No, that's not fair because Family Dynamic is a real stake, but something with some that was trying to be a little bit more hard hitting. I think that would obviously be there, and and would work. But in this, we'd come off what I'm saying, the lighter family dynamic, that kind of the day-to-day interactions of a family. So it felt a little kind of out of nowhere for me, and it felt a little manipulative.
It was a little bit, sort of a studio pushing down.
Well, but I'm saying it was probably in the book, and it was probably done better in the book, I reckon.
Fair deal.
It was funny. There was an interview with Winona Ryder that she said something along the lines of, for a teenage girl, anything to do with sex and love equates to the end of the world. Like if it, and so so there it was,
and that's so true of the time.
So there was, they're trying to kind of like narrativize, that's not a word, but that feeling.
It is now.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so by making it an actual occurrence in the narrative, it's kind of personifying that feeling, I think, which I don't think works entirely, but I can see why it's there. But it took me right out, and I was like, oh, this is getting dark.
No,
and especially because it's come from, because she happens to do that really cute thing where she's knocking back red wine she's not looking.
Was she drunk? They were both drunk.
They were drunk.
I didn't get that.
So
it wasn't until after the film finished I went, hang on a minute, they were drunk. Yeah.
Which I thought was really cute, where she's like, just have one.
Just have a little one, and she literally
starts,
just necks the entire
which
thing.
I
thought,
I was on board. I thought that was really funny. And then she starts hiccuping and laughing and stuff.
Cute.
And I was like, this is great. This is really cute. And then it's like, and then she's going to drown while she's fucking. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, this is getting dark.
The way that Winona looked at that hospital in mum's clothes and red lipstick all over your face because you're clearly just mashed on a guy's face. Oh, God. Like, that's like everyone knows what you're doing, and fucking like it's full on. Very full on. Let's talk about the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way a little, and this is very little, was Winona's narration. It was just a bit too much.
I think at times it was pretty funny, and it was the source of a few gags, but I think they used it way too much.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
I think they actually...
That's so true.
There were occasions when it actually kind of treated the audience with a bit of disrespect as well, like that we didn't get what was happening.
Yeah. In saying that, the other segue I wanted to happen was the other thing that I didn't get was how she drove off and just went bonkers for a fucking day, like with the other family. I was like, this is probably the only part of the film that I would have lifted out. Maybe I
agree. I think she
part.
could have gone somewhere.
Yeah.
And we don't know where she is, and then we find her later. And
we don't need to see what she's done.
She's been...
Because what she was doing was fucking weird. It was just weird.
It was weird.
And it made me question her actual mental state.
Well, because I don't know what this movie is, I'm watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
I actually had a suspicion.
That this was
that it was going to go into Winona like
Girl Interrupted.
maybe needs some psychological help. And I was like, oh, is that where this movie's going? That's kind of cool for a movie set in the 60s. It's trying to, address the stigma of mental health in a time where it was either like, you're fine or you're mental.
Or you're gonna
like
get zapped,
there's no
like,
in between.
literally.
And I was like, this could be cool because that's what it's doing. And then I was like, is this real? Is this like is this in her imagination? Like, is this because they were so like sickly sweet, this family.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe it's not real. Maybe it's and then so I was doing all these things in my head, and I'm just like, oh no, it's just what happened.
Oh, it's just
okay, that was
that's
weird.
it. Oh, okay.
She's
getting kicked up by pop-ups.
And it went super stylized as well in that second. It went like kind of creepy, kind of a little Stepford Wivesy, and I was like, oh, this is what's
with the passing out of the juice. I was like, oh, that was a bit fucked.
Yeah, and the kids were all really like Village of the Damned kids, like.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, Jane and Michael. Thanks. Yeah, and I was like, that was a bit weird.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with you. That bit, I see its purpose, and I see...
But it could have...
I think it could have been done better.
Yeah.
The idea of the film itself is all about trying to... talking about what we perceive as the usual family dynamic.
Yep.
So this kind of idea that unless you are a mum and dad and 2.5 kids, you are not a family. And that's what this movie is debunking, that myth, is that a family can be a mum and her 2 daughters, or a mum and the man that she just happens to be dating at the time, who is also like in love with these kids. And the weird mishmash of different lives that they can be all together, and they are a family. Yeah. And that there is nothing wrong with that family is what you make of it. And so...
Yeah, I like that.
And I think that's pretty much what this movie's trying to do. So I see it's the same thing. I see the purpose of the scene. I just don't think it was executed incredibly well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt the movie for me, because I just kind of walk away from it and go, well, that was a weird little 5-minute detour.
Yeah,
let's go back to hanging out with Bob Hoskins and Cher, because that's the best stuff in the fucking movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
God, he was good.
He's so good.
Was good as well.
He's so good.
I need to watch more Bob Hoskins movie. They're literally the only movie that I have watched with Bob Hoskins where I love him, and I have watched it upteenth times.
Yeah, we were about to say something.
Is Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah,
and it's funny because when I saw him on screen, I was like, I wonder what accent he's going to have.
Yeah.
Because he's British.
He's British,
and he's got a wicked like chav accent. Like he's full like, hey governor,
he's a full geezer.
Like full geezer.
He's a full geezer. Yeah.
And so when he started talking, I was like,
yes,
it's his Roger Rabbit,
Roger
Rabbit accent. It's his what's his name in Roger?
Eddie Valiant.
It's his Valiant accent.
Hey,
I was
Eddie
like,
Valiant.
I just love the sound of his voice. It reminds me of my childhood so much.
How much does it remind you?
I just get flashbacks to like same thing, watching Roger Rabbit on repeat, just on repeat. And having to fast forward some of the Judge Doom stuff.
Jesus. Oh, yeah.
Can't wait till we talk about Roger Rabbit. It's just
that is nightmare fueled, man. Christopher Lloyd.
He's so terrifying in that movie. But yeah, Bob Hoskins is just doing like incredible work and sells the idea that this little balding Jewish
shoe store guy,
could get Cher.
Yeah.
Because he's that charming, he's that nice, he's that beautiful a person that it's like you can see the kind of his charisma and charm.
Just rubs off on her and she's taken up with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course she is.
I just love it how like she... It's actually like some parts of the movie are just so well put together. My favourite part, one of my favourite shots in the whole film. Because there's the whole idea that she hooks up with somebody that she's not meant to hook up with.
Yep.
It all falls apart and they have to move.
Yeah.
And she's in the bathtub and she closes her eyes and points to a map. And that's where they end up going next.
Yeah.
And there was just a beautiful shot, and it lasted for like 2 seconds, when Winona Ryder and Christina Ricci... Well, Winona Ryder sees that she's flirting with Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
But in the bottom of the screen, Christina Ricci's just sitting there with a globe, spinning it, and then puts her finger down. It's just so good. It was wonderful.
That was cute. That was so cute.
Like, so there's just moments here and there that I'm like, fuck yeah, nailed it. And then there's other bits where it just kind of cruises along.
Yeah.
It's great because it's one of those movies that just kind of...
Do you think that... Sorry,
I'll talk about it in a second. You go.
Do you think that... No, because I was going to change the subject, so you finish.
Oh, it feels like one of those films where the experience of it kind of takes you out of movie land. Yeah, like you're not watching it as a movie to see a plot unfold.
No.
You're watching it as a movie just to experience the traveling of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it removes that awareness that you're watching a film, and I think that's what the best movies can do, despite their flaws. Like there are flaws to this film, but the fact that it had that ability to kind of take me out of the awareness of watching a film, and just half an hour would go by and I'd go, oh shit, half an hour's gone by. Great.
Yeah. It's done its job.
Yeah, 100%.
You know that it's done its job if it's doing that. If you're not checking your watch, it's definitely done its job.
Yeah. I only checked once.
Oh, did you?
How far I was through the movie, and that was because it was getting close to the time I had to go to work. Oh. And so I was like, I'd better just check how long it's got to go.
Oh, wow.
And it had about 25 minutes left to go.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, great. So I got through, like, legitimately an hour, because it's nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
I got through about an hour and 20 minutes.
Nice.
25 minutes without even caring about how long it had left to go. And that's pretty rare. I'm a fidgety person. Like, I have to sometimes hide my phone and stuff so that I don't...
You watch films? How are you a fidgety person?
Well, especially if it's something that I'm not like really enjoying, I can get fidgety. Right. I can get like, I start to play with my cats, or I, and just be like, hey boys, bring them up and cuddle, and I'm like, and I realize I've missed a minute or so, and I don't really care. Whereas in this, I was like, no, yeah, really on board.
Okay. Because it can get like that for us a little bit, because this is essentially, Tyson, this is homework,
And it sometimes can feel like that.
Like that. But, no, I don't. I like that this just passes time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have a look at my notes because I've just been rambling on. You go.
No. I want to talk about Winona just a little bit, because do people like this exist? She was a little bit like, we were talking about her sanity for a little bit, but she was a bit off board. Like, kind of, for some of the things. Like, when she hugged the guy and kind of just tongued his jacket a little. I was like, oh, what the fuck, man? Like, what are you doing? No one does this.
Well, this
but
is the thing. I
was like, okay, well, if you're going to, that much, your hormones are absolutely taking over you, then sure. But
I think because it's set in a time when we're less open in discussing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about hormones that turn teenagers into fucking lunatics? Like, we're far more comfortable talking about that stuff now.
Yeah.
So setting it in the 60s, it allows her that freedom to be...
To kind of in her head
pretty
sort of
bonkers,
thing. And yeah, that's true.
And it gives us kind of... Because we do get her, her fascination with, like... the church and wanting to be a nun, but at the same time being like, I want to be a nun, but I want him to rip my clothes off, like that real clash of ideas.
Yeah.
I think if it had have been a contemporary set film, we probably wouldn't be. We'd probably think it was a bit kind of dated. We'd probably be like, oh yeah, well of course, blah blah blah. But because it's the 60s and it's not a common thing, and it was kind of like it was the beginning of that kind of sexual revolution.
Yeah.
Maybe it feels like they obviously heightened it. Well, I don't want to say that because there probably are people that are exactly like this.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
For a viewer, it feels slightly heightened for the sake of the story.
Because I was talking about it with Sam, and she was like, "Yeah, look, I could see this being played by kind of like a Molly Shannon character. Like it's that kind of superstar type-esque,
Well, I mean,
that's how it
you could make a legitimate comedy out of this film by changing out the casting and making it more ludicrous for sure.
Yeah.
And not having to change a whole heap. Like
no,
just kind of
especially with the lines that Cher came out with. Like it was just amazing. The one that stuck in my head was how she said, "Look, if you I don't know how you plan to do the celibacy thing as a nun with my genes in you. You're going to have a hard time, And I love that line, especially because knowing in the back of my head, my son is sleeping upstairs and he has my genes, and I'm like, fuck, what have I passed on to this poor fucking kid? I know he's going to have a laugh that's just going to, people are going to go, oh wow, that was a bit full on,
Yeah. Oh, and it's true. Like, I think this has some really nice stuff to say about, like, mothers and daughters.
Yeah, exactly.
And, obviously we can equate that to, mothers and sons, or fathers and daughters and fathers and sons. It's all the same kind of... I mean, I think there is a very particular relationship between a mother and a daughter.
Oh, absolutely.
And even it doesn't even equate to father and son. I don't think it's a very.
Oh, you think it's?
I think it's its own. It's its own absolutely. Very separate thing that obviously we'll never be able to appreciate. And I think this movie does a very good job of translating that. And I feel like I can kind of understand it a little bit better
on another level. Yeah. Especially with her going to school and her friend saying, "That's my mum and that's your mum, and I'd rather be like your mum," sort of thing, and just relating it back to those relationships.
Yeah.
I was like, that was lovely.
It was.
There's warm. Made me want to make a cup of tea.
It did. It had a real
and the soundtrack to this sucker.
Okay, well, I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm actually of the opinion that the soundtrack is a little kind of.
Oh.
It's a bit Suicide Squad. It's a bit.
What?
Well, they didn't exactly go deep into the '60s songbook for this. It's like,
oh really?
You basically Google '60s songs, and it was the first 8. And I was like, I think they could have gone into some deeper cuts because I'm at a point now where I hear whatever it was, it wasn't just the Shoop song. I'm trying to think of something earlier on that played, and it wasn't this, but it was akin to like.
Was it some Sam Cooke?
Sugar, no. I don't think it was that though, but it was some, I don't know, whatever it was. And it played, and it took me out all of a sudden because I was like, that song is not, it no longer evokes a time, because it has gone past that time.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So there's songs from the 60s that exist only in the 60s and will always be reminiscent of that time. There are songs from the 60s that have continued to travel. And so when you hear them now, you don't think of a time like the 60s.
No,
you think of the time when that song was in your life.
Yeah, you think of the Red Rooster ad that fucked up the song.
There you go. Perfect example. Like, whatever it was used as a jingle for.
Yeah.
Or the other movie that used it a bazillion times.
Yeah, the fucking song that me and my wife were talking about, because I was playing the Reservoir Dogs soundtrack the other day.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Ooga chaka, ooga chaka. That reminds people of Guardians now.
It's Guardians
for me now. But for ages, it was fucking Hungry Jack's for years.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was too.
And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, shut up. I hate Hungry Jack's ads. I love Hungry Jack's, don't get me wrong. but yeah, fuck off, you know.
Yeah. So do you know what I mean? Like, I just every now and then I was like, okay, it's a great song. It is a great song.
Yeah. But
you could have gone deeper into the era.
Yeah, man.
It's like playing Creedence Clearwater when you go to Vietnam. Now. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some folks born
where's the flag?
It's cinematic language in itself now that I think you can avoid just by going a little bit deeper, and instead of going to the album you buy at Safeway for $8, the best of the 60s. You can go a little bit further and find some really great stuff if you just dig a little bit deeper.
Because the 60s has been so long, that's right. You need a... Well, there wasn't really that long in the 80s. No, this was the 90s.
Well, that's also fucked to think about. Like,
do you know what I mean?
That it was only 20... Like,
it was only
25 years later, and we're already 30... What?
Yeah.
28 years from this movie existing.
Yeah.
We're further away from this movie existing than that movie was from the time it was set in.
Yeah.
Which is
worse.
Bonkers to think about.
We need to. If you were to make Mermaids now, you need to absolutely be picking 60 songs that aren't.
You couldn't do the Shoop song,
no,
because the Shoop song, to me, has a bigger association with this film than the 60s itself.
Well, I had never heard the original until this movie.
Well, there you go. I was very aware that it existed, but probably more often than not, I've heard the Cher version. And because
it was fucking everywhere.
It was huge. I'd forgotten just how huge it was.
Yeah, it was massive.
I watched that thing on video hits.
Upteen times. There were so many
30
fucking
weeks
times.
in a row. I reckon it was like in the top 10 or something.
It was.
And I could, as soon as because I read something where it explained the film clip. And it all flooded back into my head.
Yeah, there were shots in this movie that I knew from the film clip. And I'm like, oh, the kids running up with a Halloween shot, and I'm like, and then I saw it on the film, and I'm like, I was like, oh, the film clip, and then in my head I saw the kid in the front. He dressed as the Easter Bunny for Halloween. I'm like, whose parents is that? What kind of fucking shitty parent is that? Like, come on, man. Yeah, that was fucking shit. It shat me.
Maybe this is part of the reason why. Because it's funny, I've had not a resistance to this film.
Yep.
But it's something I would just always scan past. It's not like I've ever even remotely considered watching this film.
No, that's
I wonder
true.
if that has something to do with an inherent hatred of seeing that film clip so much.
So much, yeah.
Because we were only 7 or 8, but mate, that's embedded in there, though. Yeah, maybe that's like just fully embedded in my head, and I'm like...
I could tell you what happens. Like, it's Winona and Christina Ricci backing up, singing
they're just dressed up like in Cher Get Up.
Cher Get Up, yeah. Fuck me.
So isn't that's interesting?
Yeah.
I reckon that might be
I think that's why we've
got this subconscious kind of...
in our heads, we're like, oh no,
like resistance to
I've seen it
where it's
so
just
much.
like I
don't want to see the movie.
I see the cover and my body just kind of goes like because I've got I've seen
that way too much.
Seen it way too much. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that's so true.
What about?
It's like a TV show that you've watched a billion times, so you don't watch the start credits anymore. You absolutely fast forward those credits.
See, I go through phases where it's like sometimes they drive me nuts, and then I'll be sitting there going, "I'll be there for you," like singing at the top of my lungs in the fucking house. Yeah,
there are some that you can't go past though. You can't go past. Do you know? Have I told you this story? I love this story.
What's that story?
So when Friends was massive, we're talking huge. We're talking, let's say, season 4, right?
Sure.
It's huge.
Yeah.
These guys are getting 2 million a fucking episode, right? My mum tries to jump on the bandwagon.
Right.
I'm watching Friends, and it comes out, and she was doing something in the kitchen, realizes that I'm watching Friends. It starts. She comes in, and she goes, "Oh, I want to do it. Here we go." And then she goes, and she goes, and goes, oh, fuck, shit, oh, no, oh, fuck. And I'm like, Mum. And I was like in year 10 or year 11, I'm like, Mum.
Stop being a loser, Mum.
Mum, what are you doing?
You're
She's like, I can never
me.
get it. Nick, I can never get it. I'm like, Mum, there are things that you can get in life and then things you can't, okay? And you can't get this.
It's not for you. Thank you for nothing, Mum.
It was so funny. Oh, I loved it. She can get it now, I think. Probably not.
No, well, this is what's going to happen, though, when we're older, you realise.
No, that's
There's going to be cool shows that we're going to want to watch, and it's going to be like, Dad, you can't watch this show. It's for us. I want to watch it. That's how your son's going to talk, by the way.
My son will never speak like that, ever. And if he does, I will inflict severe discipline on my son.
What else I want to say? Do you know what I was at first not on board for, but I think they actually handled it really nicely, was the JFK assassination stuff.
I thought that was really good. I thought that, and this is what I thought about because after the whole thing finished, I was like, well, they didn't need the Winona going nuts, but the JFK thing actually was quite nice.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they did it well, because it would have been a fucking...
Yeah, well, I'm fascinated by JFK. He's actually like one of those figures that I have this real incredible, like, strange fascination with.
I'd make it because of the Oliver Stone and how much of an Oliver Stone.
Well, I'm not sure. I think
Oliver Stone, K. Cost, dude, you can't get away from anyone.
It's a bit chicken and the egg with that one, though. Like, yeah. I think, do I love JFK because I love the movie JFK, or do I love the movie JFK because I was always kind of fascinated by the figure himself?
There's so much and the mystery around his death and how much he was such an icon. It is partly that. It is, yeah. It's actually that. It's his iconic persona,
yeah. And the fact that aside from times of real legitimate terror or like mass murder, I can't think of a figure that brought on so much overall public mourning, except for maybe Princess Diana. Do you know what I mean? But it was very different. Like,
yeah, this was a leader that a lot of demographics got behind.
He represented such a change and such a kind of step in this different direction. Like, we were just. And obviously it was different for. I can't imagine what it'd be like as in Australia, but for obviously
we won't have that.
Oh, well, I mean, I can't think of anything that would be close to that.
Who would?
But you know, the having that taken away and like stripped out from people, even if you weren't on his side politically, I feel like there was just this kind of collective sadness in the world on the day he was assassinated, and I find that fascinating. I find that really, I think how everyone collectively felt that same way for that short period of time.
Because I think
interested by.
Because I think it also was the change. It's a change that happens in that generation, that you find that the blinders are kind of taken away from you, and you're like, no, this is the reality of the world, and the world is actually quite a violent place. Well, we don't realise this until our bubble is burst. Now, our version of this is 9/11. You know.
Yeah, but see, the sadness of 9/11 is the mass.
It was wasn't just one person. It was so
many
people.
Innocent people, and such hatred in that action.
Yeah,
that I find. Yeah, so I find
similar,
them.
but they're different.
I don't
they're
equate
similar.
them quite the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I actually think, and usually when it pops up in a film, I feel like it's just like, oh, here we are. He's the obligatory, because we've set our film in the 60s, so we have to have
this,
the Kennedy thing, because it's like a cheap way to get some sympathy.
Yeah, either that or the moon landing.
Yeah. But I think they did it really nicely.
No,
and there's this. She actually had one of my favorite little pieces of voiceover where it was like, she said something like, it's like all the grown-ups don't exist anymore, or all the grown-ups are gone, or all that's left are the children, or something.
Left are the children, because she was walking past the kids who were playing in the leaves, and you know, there was just a man, which was one of my favorites. He was just a man, just had a newspaper rolled up on it, and he was just leaning on a pole, and he was just deep in thought.
Yeah,
and that was like, I was like, man,
and for a
that
movie,
extra is earning his $20.
Yeah,
right
it was
now.
nice.
Look at that.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
And the kids just blissfully unaware, just doing their thing. They don't understand the weight of the situation.
Yeah.
And for a movie, sorry, just to interrupt. For a movie where Winona Ryder spends quite a lot of time wanting and craving guidance from a parental figure, from an adult, because that's really what she's desperate for that from her mother, and doesn't think that she will ever have that because she's such a loose unit.
Yeah.
Like, so there was real weight in seeing that she's kind of wandering around and noticing that there are things that will actually... There are times when every single person who is meant to be a guardian or a parent or a source of advice or a source of kind of inspiration are going to have times where they can't be that. And I think it was nice, really nicely displayed.
I remember a time in 2008 when I was talking to a housemate of mine, and Obama had just become president, and I was very scared that this was going to become a JFK situation.
There's the Eddie Murphy gag about the first black president where he's on the tarmac giving the speech and he has to keep running around
from side to side.
He won't stand still.
He won't stand still. Yeah, but I really, legitimately, I was like, well, especially because I had just watched JFK, so I was like, oh, I'm really scared that this is going to happen. I really hope, and it never did. And thank God.
I think I'm not saying we're past that point because that's a
it's
foolish
harder
thing
to
to
do,
say. Because,
yes,
but I think we're in a time where it would be so much harder to do.
Yeah.
And it's nothing I want to think about because I don't think it achieves anything for anybody to have that as a result.
No.
What else is there?
What else you got?
There were some weird cuts to black in the second half of the film. Like they were kind of... Did you notice them?
No.
Like every now and then it was like insert commercial break.
Legit outbreaks?
Yeah.
Because I remember some movies have done this.
And
You're like,
don't like
that
it.
was a kind of scene.
I don't like
What
it.
are you doing
I don't
there?
like the awareness that someone went, that's where I want you to put a commercial because I know that it's going to play on commercial television. And it's kind of like, no.
No, don't do that.
Don't sacrifice your movie for
television.
for the potential that you know it's going to be on television.
Yeah, don't do
It's
that.
such a weird choice to make.
Yeah, that is weird.
And they were really jarring. Oh, they did kind of bookend scenes well, but so does just a normal cut. Like it was just strange. It was really strange.
It was
unless
weird.
he was trying to imply time passing, but I didn't get that kind of vibe from it.
No, not at all.
Strange.
Yeah.
What else did they do well?
I wrote down. Sorry to go back a bit. Then Winona ran away in some weird Winona way.
Did she have a weird run?
No.
Oh, do you know what I liked when she
though.
was driving the car and she hung her head out the window or something and said, "What did she
yelled
say?
Out
I'm going to live an exciting life." Or something.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It made me laugh. There was some real, there was
weird.
occasional moments of actual
weird.
laughter from
Oh
me.
yeah. What was another bit where Winona was just really weird and there were funny bits with Winona. You were just like, you're just fucking bonkers, woman. Crazy.
Legit bonkers. Well, there's the whole subplot of her thinking she's pregnant because she patched the dude. And that leads to some pretty funny stuff, like when every time Cher says, "What do you want to talk? What's the matter? What do you want?" and her voiceover is like, "Because I'm about to have like the Jewish, the Jewish Italian Messiah."
I was like, "Oh my God!"
It's a funny line.
That doctor, that 60s doctor was a tad wrong with that. My fucking God.
I think. Well, the thing is, right. So I actually think they played that pretty well because because there was no. Like, it was so matter of fact that you couldn't...
That he was like, oh, no. There's no way that you have a child inside
because
you.
It's kind of like,
you still have your hymen.
Exactly. It's like, Lord. Well, you're still a virgin, so you can't be pregnant.
Yeah.
And like, it was played so, like, matter of fact, plainly, that he was just like, oh, I better let this girl know about that. Because, man, it would have been really uncomfortable going to doctor's surgery when you're a 15-year-old girl and having an old man kind of just go poking around in there.
She didn't know what she was up for. She literally just wanted to talk to someone.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of moments.
Joan of Arc.
The what? I must have missed that.
When they came out and called her name, she put her name as Joan Arc. I'm like, oh God. Oh, go Winona, you crazy cat.
Great. There are a couple of like 60s-ness things about it that I think if you wanted to make a fuss about them, you definitely could. I think the age of Joe and the age separation. Joe is meant to be 26 or something,
and she's 15. Yeah.
Which is never addressed, which I found kind of interesting.
Which I think that's the reason, because I was wondering why he left in the end. Why did he leave? But I think that's why he left.
It might be why he left.
Everyone knew what happened.
But
and I'm like,
well, maybe
I'd leave too, to be honest.
Probably.
Or maybe he's gone to find that girl.
But to me, it was never. No one was ever kind of. Well, like when Cher was talking to her at the start about how cute he was or anything like that, there was never any kind of like implication that the age difference was a factor.
Yeah, that's true. Which I loved about Cher. She was literally just like, "Hey, go."
That's obviously a sign of the '60s. But you think about that now. If you heard about anyone in their mid-20s like hooking up with a 15-year-old, you'd be like,
"Dude, you're going to prison.
Yeah, you are going to jail, and you deserve to go to jail." So that was kind of interesting. The other bit was the line from Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci from Bob Hoskins.
Joe Pesci just rolls up and it's like, "You motherfucker,
Hey,
I'm gonna fucking put you in the ground.
Fuck, what, you think I'm funny? You think I'm funny? How am I funny?
How am I funny?
How am I funny?
No,
You're a funny guy. You're funny.
Bob Hoskins says the line about, I've never wanted to hit a woman more than I want to hit you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that is, it's interesting because it's similarly, if you wanted to make a fuss about a line like that, I think you really could. I think it's telling of a time, and I think it handles that situation very well.
In a worse movie, he would have just hit her.
Yeah,
I think. And what they did was the higher ground. I think talk about what happened and talk about what happened in that time.
Yeah,
but reference it
exactly.
And not
reference that it was far more common, and and
but Bob Hoskins is a better person,
and he's a person that is not afraid to admit that he can get riled up.
Yeah.
And I like the way that he said he's never wanted to, but like he does right now. Yeah. And but you make it. He wants to talk.
Hard.
Yeah, he wants to talk about that though and stuff like that. But it's funny because that's the 60s-ness of it that makes you go like that line really caught me off guard. I found it really jarring, and I was like, holy shit! Like, what a line.
Yeah. That'd be hard
because we are so much more. We do talk about it so much more freely now, and we understand that it is a real problem, and it has been a problem for a really long time. You know, the backhanding of the why I order right in the kisser,
honeymooners.
And
I'll right to the moon. I love that Family Guy bit.
Yeah,
he just plants her into the table.
That's it.
That is awful.
That's it. That kind of awareness of the commonplaceness of it.
The whole audience doesn't even laugh.
That's it. Everyone just drops.
Everyone's like,
holy shit.
Jesus.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
What else? The last thing.
I've got nothing. I literally have
I didn't take many notes.
I didn't take many notes. Do you know why? Because I was enjoying it.
Yeah, and that's it. I did just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Cher's, I like, my favourite line of Cher is after she's so angry at Winona Ryder, she disappears for a little bit, and then she comes in, shuts the door, and she's like, I've had some scotch.
I'm
ready to talk.
I took look. I'm not gonna lie to you. I took some
life lessons.
No, some parenting lessons from Cher. You know,
it's great, man.
It's so awesome.
And look, this movie needs to have some props for the fact that it takes a character trait that I don't think was super. Respected in women, even in 1990. That ability for a free-spirited but still good, good mother.
Yeah,
she can be one in the same. She can be kind of still figuring out her own shit. She can still be a free spirit.
She's a human being. Still,
that wants to go around and experiment with things and experience life.
Yeah,
and perhaps has a bit of a tendency to run away from her problems, which is a very forgivable problem because I think that's something that a lot of us would do if we had the opportunity. The fact that she had the ability because there was nothing keeping her anywhere to just go, well, fuck it, let's go try another state. Yeah. Let's try another city. Why not?
Why not?
But still acknowledge that she's actually a really fucking great mum, and that it was never an issue about whether or not they should be there. Like, worse movies would have had like human child protection coming and knocking on the door and stuff and making sure she's a fit mother and stuff. This film never did that. It allowed her to be this kind of person.
Or you would have seen, society looking at her going, oh,
yeah, and that
she's
didn't actually happen that much. There was the occasional line about people being aware that she's a bit of the town bike.
Yeah, but she didn't give a fuck.
No, and that's it. She owned it. She didn't give a fuck about it.
No,
and
I'm
more
gonna have
importantly,
fun while I'm still
the movie
alive.
itself didn't judge her for it.
Exactly.
The movie never made us
judge her.
No. And be all like, oh, she's got to get her shit together, otherwise these kids are going to grow up. It's like, no, she can be exactly who she is.
Yep.
Everyone just needs to be more appreciative of who they are.
Yeah,
she needs to appreciate who Winona is a little bit better. Winona needs to appreciate who she is a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then we all kind of...
Absolutely.
Collectively. I got one last question for you.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. Yeah, hit me.
What do you think the title means?
I don't know. I still don't know. Because it's got nothing to do with her costume. For me, it...
Because I was going back and forth, and I was like,
only thing that it means
Christina Ricci's a swimmer.
Yep.
So there's this Christina Ricci. There's this fascination with water. So I think there's a little bit there.
There's a little bit there. Yep.
There is obviously she dresses as the mermaid.
Sure. But I think it has to do with the fact that also something has to with Cher having so many suitors.
The mystical kind of creature, the mermaid,
coming in and out of men's lives.
For men, it's kind of like
she wants to be a mermaid. At the end of the day,
knocked off the boat. The story of the guy, of the pirates getting shipwrecked and the the mermaids come and save them and spend the night with them, and then they disappear forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. I am like.
What do you think?
Well, I'm literally like. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I cannot find a legitimate answer, but I haven't really, like, to be honest, I haven't done a heap of Google. It'll be in the book, or it'll be in the writer.
Yeah.
If anything, and I'm going to go out on a limb and probably be completely wrong.
Here we go.
I think that there was, not only was there those of the actual literal kind of comparisons with Christina Ricci being an excellent swimmer, and Cher, that like what you're talking about, that kind of that fantastical creature, that kind of mythical creature. To men, the men would see her as this like beautiful kind of creature that just sweeps in and out. There's something about a quest for a mermaid, right? Mermaids is this myth. Obviously, it's a mythical creature. It doesn't exist. Yeah. For Winona Ryder, I think she's trying to find the family dynamic that doesn't exist. So to her, her mermaid is her mother and father and her sister living in a house together with a dog, going to the same school. That's like her mermaid. It's this thing that she wants to find desperately, but actually doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And isn't important in the end. And that she has to realize that she doesn't need to find that in order to be happy. That was the only thing I can think of. I was thinking, it's like, well, it's a mythical creature. What she can, like, I am reaching like shit, and I need to,
no, that's not
I need
bad.
to go and find.
We need to find out the writer and the book that, and find out why she named.
Because there's no way it's accidental.
No,
because it's too.
No, it's too.
She made the title Mermaids, and
it's not mentioned in the film at all ever.
No,
apart from
aside
the costume.
from the costume. Yeah, it's not like there's a weird one of her voiceovers talking about how I wish I was a mermaid or something like that.
Yeah. Or even being like you see water throughout this movie, but it's not
water
as if
plays a role quite a lot, which is I think a part of it as well. There's the bit where Christina Ricci tries to hold her breath underwater.
I did that a lot as a kid.
Which I did a lot as a kid as well.
Yeah.
Everyone does it as a kid. Yeah. Maybe there's something there about everyone's trying to kind of
grow up too fast?
Well,
or grow up?
You know, when it's like that, it's like that saying, you know, everyone's kind of, it's more like everyone feels like they're drowning.
Oh, yeah. You're trying to keep your head above water.
Keeping your head above water, yeah. So maybe that's part of it as well. She's got the baby pool that she loves hanging out in, and she drowns. She
almost drowns,
intents and purposes. Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, she nearly drowns.
Maybe she drowns in the book. I don't know. That's a shot in the dark.
Yeah. Anyway,
do you know when I was a kid, I was that good at holding my breath underwater that I could get a lap and a half of the
lap
pool.
and a half.
A lap and a half.
That's incredible.
Yeah, underwater.
I like how she says I'm 5 seconds off, and I'm like, go get the fuck back under.
Yeah, no,
5
what
seconds.
The hell? 5 seconds from breaking the Guinness World Record. Come
5 seconds.
That's
huge.
Do it. That's huge. Do you know what the Guinness Book of World Records is underwater? Because I know that Tom Cruise got close to it. It's
I think this is. I think
this
they
is
made
bullshit?
it up. She's not under there for 7 minutes or whatever.
No, but this is different. That was the 60s.
Yeah, maybe it
was a different time.
Maybe it was like a minute 30, and everyone was like, I can do that.
It's 9.5 minutes now. I think.
Fucking Jesus.
Yeah, I think it's around 9.5.
And
Tom gets to 7. That's how fucked that is. Jesus, that's what he does on his days off.
Yeah,
like fucking.
Tom Cruise, man, keep doing what you're doing. We love it.
Jesus.
And one day when you suffer a hideous fate.
I'm going to watch Ghost Protes.
Ghost Protes. It's all about Ghost Protes, my man.
It's not about Ghost Protes.
It's definitely no Rogue Nation.
Oh, fuck Rogue Nation.
No,
Give me number 3 any day of the week.
Ghost Protes.
Oh my God.
Let's wrap it up.
That was Mermaids.
It was Mermaids.
I feel like I added nothing to that conversation.
No, you did.
I tried a little.
That was good.
I just enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed it.
And
I didn't want to. I love this bit. I love this bit.
Yeah. Do you know what's good though? We finally had it's on our list that we liked.
Oh yeah.
It took us 3 to get there.
Excuse me. I've liked every single. Hey, we had both seen Cobra, and that wasn't. We just did that.
That's true.
That's actually on the list, but that doesn't count.
That doesn't count because we didn't
Episode
have a
number
name.
Was it 2 or 3?
It was really early. Yeah,
it was 3
because we wanted to do a Stallone one.
Yeah.
Fuck,
but Cobra,
Cobra's bonkers.
And what was the next one? Cobra, and then it wasn't.
Well, the first official that's on my list was 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
4 Weddings. That was fucking.
And we did not like 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
But that wasn't even a good podcast. That was terrible.
Oh, I think we kind of hung shit on that movie pretty substantially. I reckon. Yeah, I might go back and have a listen.
I didn't have fun on that one.
No, we didn't have fun because we were so disappointed by the film. I think it was kind of like, how is this movie
But I had fun with
Santa Was Fire because it was just
that was hilarious.
What the fuck is that movie? Anyway, let's move on.
That's it.
What did you watch this week, Nick?
What did you watch this week?
Do you want me to go first then? Because I got mine ready to roll.
Yeah, go on. What have you got?
Oh, fuck. What did I watch? I've already forgotten what I watched.
Oh, really?
Here I am thinking. Oh, okay. So I'll talk about a couple of things really quickly. I saw Free Fire, the Ben Wheatley film from a couple of years ago.
Free Fire? Oh, you bastard. Are you serious? Was it good? Was it good?
It's good, yeah.
It was good.
It's pretty good.
You know what? Don't talk about it. I want to see it.
Okay, there's no spoiling it because what you know about it is the movie. It's a very intriguing bunch of characters come together for an arms deal. It's in Boston in the early 70s,
I think. Beat the shit out of High Rise, didn't it? Because High Rise, fuck it.
Do you know what? I didn't see High Rise in the end because everyone who I knew that went and saw it was like, don't bother seeing High Rise.
And I was one of them.
And
fuck.
Yeah, and so it's 1978. It's set in Boston, 1978. It's Irish people, some English people, some American people, some South African people. They all meet in this factory in order to complete an arms deal. The first maybe 25 to 30 minutes is just character building, and then the last nearly an hour is just one giant gunfight.
Awesome. I am so fucking in for this thing.
And it is a lot of fun.
Right.
It knows exactly when to turn its tone a little bit serious as well.
Oh, nice.
Which is great.
That's good.
Cillian Murphy, who I don't give full props to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love him. Look, I've always been a fan.
Yeah.
He's so good in this. So fucking good in this. And for if anyone is a Armie Hammer kind of doubter, this is the film.
My Armie Hammer.
Yeah. So the two of them are so ridiculously good in this.
Yeah.
And then you get Charlotte Copley doing just a bonkers performance. Dude. He's the source of most of the comic relief.
Of course.
But the cast is just ridiculous, actually ridiculous. Because on top of that, you get Brie Larson, you get Noah Taylor, you get Jack Rayner from Sing Street, one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years.
Yeah. What's... Did you say Cillian Murphy? I say Cillian.
Oh, is it Cillian? I don't know.
I think it's Cillian.
Oh, Sam Riley's in it as well. He's fucking bonkers.
Oh,
he does a really crazy performance.
Sam
So look,
what's that again?
It ends up amounting to not very much. That's probably the biggest problem I had with it in the end.
Right.
Is that I watched it and had a very good time, and then went, well, this isn't really saying or achieving anything. It's an exercise in direction, I think, more than anything else, and it sounds like it's like someone challenged him to say, "Hey, how long could you do a gunfight for and keep it entertaining?"
Oh, really?
And it achieves that. Right. It definitely achieves it because it is incredibly entertaining. But yeah, at the end of it, you just kind of come away and go, "Okay,
fair deal."
What happened? What ended up resulting from that? Like on an artistic level, like what were you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Did you achieve it? If it was purely a technical level, with some funny dialogue and some kind of quippy characters that you end up appreciating over the time of the film.
Yep.
Great. It's wonderful and it's exactly what we want. But it's nothing more than that, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, very easy watch. It's in and out, 85 minutes or some shit as well.
Yeah.
Great. And the only other one I want to talk about, I'll just smash out my two straight away.
Yeah.
Is I watched for the second time, but only the first time in at least 15 years, 20 years maybe, I watched this really young.
Yeah.
I watched High Noon. The old classic western.
Nice.
From 19, I want to say 47 or 50. I feel like it's a 50-something.
Yeah, who's in
52.
This?
Gary Cooper is in this.
Yeah.
It was technically Gary Cooper's comeback film.
Oh, okay.
He was a huge star of westerns in
for ages,
the early silver screen kind of guy. And he was in his mid-50s, I think, when this came around. And he'd kind of disappeared, and then he came back and won the Oscar for Best Actor from this and all this kind of stuff. And it was huge.
Grace Kelly, baby.
Yeah, this film is kind of notorious for being one of the first kind of deconstructionist westerns. But one of the ones it's probably not the first. I mean, that's presumptuous to say, but it's one of the first to really de-glamorize the Western myth. Nice. And I think it does it in a pretty effective way. Yeah. It kind of strips away all that kind of
glitz and
heroism of being a gunslinger, and it really, and being a lawman, it kind of makes this job of being a marshal really kind of like a burden, and you realize the weight and the moral weight of something like that.
Yeah.
It's clever in its setup. The whole idea that this guy is arriving on the noon train, which, when they point to a clock at the start of the film, is arriving in roughly 60 to 70 minutes.
Right.
And we spend those 60 to 70 minutes waiting for the train to arrive.
Wow.
And then when the train arrives, we have our finale. So that's very clever.
Nice movie setup.
Yeah, which is a great setup. It's it needs to be seen, I think, from a technical standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint, because I think it does some really interesting things that were very fresh and original at the time.
Yeah.
It wears its date pretty badly, unfortunately. It's the performances are very surface 1950s. I think the dialogue itself is trying to do some more interesting things than the performances are allowing them to do.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Gary Cooper is actually pretty not good in this film.
Oh, wow.
I don't enjoy his performance very much.
Yeah.
And I think that comes more than anything from just not being aware of his earlier work. You know, it seems to be like it's one of those things that it's like when Clint Eastwood does Unforgiven. Everyone's seen 400 westerns or episodes of Rawhide as well, with Clint Eastwood playing the heroic gunslinger,
the badass,
and then to see him in Unforgiven, and it has this really effective kind of melancholy to it, because he's just so downtrodden by it all. So maybe that effect would be heightened more if I'd seen a lot more of other Gary Cooper stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Grace Kelly's also in this, and she's pretty great, like in an old school kind of damsel performance. There is a character which I'm not sure if it was kind of fresh for the time, but a character played by Katie Jurado called Helen Ramirez, who's quite a powerful woman and quite a very independent and free thinking woman. And I was thinking, for a movie, you know, made in that time, I think that 52. Might have been an original kind of concept. She has a lot of power in the relationship, and she's very strong character.
First time it would have been filmed. Strong women have been around since the...
Oh, yeah, of course, but like using it as a narrative device in a Western, which is obviously was always a very masculine kind of genre.
Since the talkies, it was always a woman getting tied to the tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're used as bait to just let the story travel along.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
a harlot.
Or the harlot, yeah. So there's definitely some stuff worth watching in it. I think it's more of a curiosity now, and to see
it's been on the list
effect.
For years.
Yeah. And it was on my list as well for a really long time, and I'm glad I've seen it. And much like what I was telling you about when I just stumbled across that first Kubrick film that was on one of the streaming services, I'm glad I've seen it now properly, and I can really appreciate it. But it's not something I'm going to return to frequently, because
it's the same as me watching 2001. I was like, I've seen it. I understand what the fuss was about. Look, it still grabbed me in parts, and that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it, and I will never ever watch that again.
Yeah. The other thing, the action sequences in this are pretty well shot and well put together. Like for a gunfight, you can feel sometimes, I reckon, some of those early gunfights that you see in, like, if you happen to stumble across some shitty Western at 3 a.m. on like Fox Classics, they can be pretty terrible. But the gunfight is staged really well and directed quite effectively.
What was the one I talked about ages ago with the Dawson?
Texas Rangers. Hey man, Texas Rangers. Don't knock Texas Rangers.
I know you love it. That's
no,
why
I don't love it. It's garbage, but I can watch the hell out of that for some reason.
Jesus Christ! All right.
But yeah,
well,
so what did you watch?
Fair enough. I'm gonna start off with a review that it's been a long time coming, and I don't know whether I've talked about this yet. Hopefully, I haven't. I finally watched. Now we'll go back if I have mentioned this already, but I finally watched Justice League.
I don't know.
Have I talked about this?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think I have.
I don't know.
Fuck. I can't go back and talk about it
Well,
again.
let's just talk about it again. What did you think of Justice League?
What an absolute clusterfuck. Jesus
I wonder if we have
Christ.
spoken about
No, I don't
this.
think we have.
It's always been just me ragging on it.
Because you and Nick saw it, and you spoke about it.
You hadn't seen it by the end of last year when we did the wrap-up.
No, and I hadn't talked about it, but I've seen a lot of movies recently. Because I saw Black Panther, and then I watched Justice League in the same week.
Ah, there you go.
What an absolute clusterfuck of a shit.
It's disappointing.
To start off with the fact that he has, to start off the film with the mustache gone shot, I was like, you are starting off already on the wrong foot. And it was just misstep after misstep after misstep. This whole thing was just bad. Not only that, I could see what Nick was talking about, how you built up and did such justice with Wonder Woman.
Pun intended.
And then you just dragged her down to the depths of nothingness with where women are in film, with all the arse shots that you did of her.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? So not only did it make me angry, not only was Superman just not Like it wasn't used in any way, shape, or form.
Used well. At least he at least kind of got close to what we want from the Superman character. But I feel like it's all too little, too late. It's kind of like you've kind of already shut the bed, guys. Like you can't just.
And not only that,
I'm trying to think of how to finish that metaphor, and it's all gross.
Like
you can't just
not only
sweep
that,
the
but,
shit
but
off.
if you're gonna do that, and with the amount of money that you have pushed back into this thing, at least make it a FX fest where I go, oh, that looked nice. But the fact that I am watching this thing and going, wow, you know what this reminds me of? Mummy motherfucking Returns.
Oh,
if
right.
this is Mummy Returns quality, and we're in 2018, and this is what you're punching out, fuck me,
there
guys.
There is some
go back,
terrible CGI in that
really
film.
bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
The whole last sequence, wherever it was set, felt
just a write-off.
Felt like nowhere. Felt like a computer simulation.
Yeah.
There was just no tangible quality to it at all.
It looked like the score, like when the most of it that I remember, because I think it was 2 weeks since I watched it, was a lot of Aquaman, him flying around and then floating off things and bouncing off. And I'm like, you're not grounding your characters at all. This doesn't feel real to me at all, like on any level. Like I understand if he can swim fast, that's awesome. If he uses the waves, that's awesome as well. Like the fact that we saw in the first 2 Iron Man movies that Tony Stark would fall and get jarred and stamp down and the suit actually weighed a ton, and all of that stuff. In him, he's looking like a rag doll, so he's just kind of bouncing off scenes and things like that. So from that, it was just, and I'm not even mentioning the story. Like I'm going to save most of what
story?
I'm going to save what of most of what I have
movie
because we are going to do this episode because I am looking forward to deconstructing this piece of shit. We will do it probably next year, and that's fine. We need a breather. Yeah. Both me and Tys, we need a breather from it.
No more DC.
And then from that, we're just going to, because this thing it made me so sad and it was laughable when I put it on. I said to Sam, we're going to watch this thing. And she said, are you fucking serious? I'm going to waste my time watching this? This is not going to be a short movie. I said, babe, what we're going to do is...
Actually, it wasn't that long at all.
No, it wasn't that long. We're going to watch it.
Less than 2 hours.
We're going to watch it, and we are going to pull this apart. I want us to talk through this thing because there's no other way that we're going to be able to enjoy it. Now, that's where you, as a lover of film or a lover of superheroes, no matter what it is, should come at this thing. If you are planning to watch Justice League, make sure that you're going to talk through it, have some laughs, get drunk, because that's the only way you're going to enjoy this thing.
I would recommend giving it that first watch like the way I had to do it.
Yeah.
Sitting in a cinema completely, and just with my jaw on the ground, kind of
just going,
marveling at the complete lack of anything. Like the complete lack of awareness of how even how even movies work. Like the complete lack of any kind of coherent structure, any kind of
action sequence choreography.
Well, anything that had any kind of what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Not circumstance. Any kind of I hate when it gets this time of night and I lose all my words. Not responsibility.
Reactions?
No. Consequence.
Consequence.
Fuck. Jesus.
We got there. Like things. No action sequences that had any consequence on the next part of that action sequence. It was all just
no semblance of screenplay structure. Like I'm not a screenplay expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I can tell you there are certain things that screenplays should have. Good screenplays should have. And I'm not saying like you can't reinvent the wheel here and there, but This was. It had nothing. This had no wheel. Barely a movie. Yeah, it's not.
There was no wheel on this.
There was no wheel at all. They didn't reinvent anything.
No.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It was just like I knew it was going to be. I didn't think I was going to. I just thought I would have enjoyed something of it.
And while there are moments that my eyes can appreciate are somewhat pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
there are
did
bits
love
where
the introduction of Batman, how he was literally just sitting there on a perch. Yep. I was like, "Ooh, okay." Oh,
and even that first scene is ridiculous. Like it is ridiculous
with him and the
with him and the criminal, and then a fucking parademon comes out of nowhere, and then it's like, movie's on. Okay,
I'm talking about Superman on the phone and him getting filmed, and it's so clear.
Look,
the fact that
don't worry about it. But funny thing about that, it's amazing because that scene gets shat on a lot. It's one of the only times in the film is actually trying to say something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, but at least it's trying.
But
it's trying to... Because I think they've realised that they looked at that film and went, we've made a film about nothing.
Yeah.
Like literally about nothing.
Yeah.
Because I know what the plot is. You don't have to tell me what the plot is, but what is it about? What is it about? Because the best comic book movies are always about something. They are metaphors. They are symbolism. They are analogies.
There is a moral to be learned or something. You know, something.
Anything. What is this movie about? It's about nothing. Yeah. So at least they tried that opening scene. It's garbage, and his face looks like a fucking it's got Play-Doh on it. Fuck. But they try. That's one of the only times in the whole film where they try to do something. Yeah. The other thing I'll say is the conversation between Batman and the Flash. What do? I don't know how to do this. Save one person.
Save one person.
That is actually that's actually one of the probably more succinct and pretty well written kind of ethos of superhero that I can think of in a lot of things. I think it's been that similar thing has been said a lot, but that's very. I think if you can say it in that few words and get the point across, you've written it well. Yeah. That one interaction between the two of them, I think, is well written.
Well done, yeah.
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 But that's it.
That's it. That really is it. And talk about your worst villains of all time.
He's garbage. What is he? He's nothing.
I think Sharon Stone in the Catwoman Halle Berry movie was better.
At least she's got
something.
She's got a story.
Oh, fuck.
This guy's just, I need mother boxes.
Fuck?
What for?
What for? Who cares?
Just make the world...
The point is,
it's all this bullshit about, I want the world to return to the time when monsters roamed and villains play... Well, it's like, I know...
Are you serious?
Who gives a fuck,
are you
man?
fucking serious? Yeah.
What is that? It's nonsense.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I watched Justice League.
Yeah.
Okay? And
it's done. You've done it. You got it out of the way with.
Just a massive... one thing I did want to mention is the fact that my favourite sentence... After the film had finished, Sam turns to me and goes, didn't they spend like over 20 million of reshoots of this thing? Where the fuck? So I want to see the original now. Let's see Zach's original
we don't want to see
cut.
Zach's cut.
Go on, let's see that.
I'm not joining the brigade of douche bros who are out there with the hashtag of the fucking Snyder cut.
Let's see Snyder's cut.
Who are like, I want my dark and gritty. Because
dark and gritty what?
The perception is that this movie is bad because...
Of
Joss Whedon's
influence. Bullshit.
So much bullshit.
I can tell the scenes that he rewrote because the dialogue gets so much, well, not so much better, but it gets better.
It says something.
There's a creepy line in there that I'm like, hey,
and this is the thing. This is what these people don't want. They want to see this dark, gritty Zack Snyder version of it. I'm like... Man, if you want that, that's fine. Why don't you go play fucking Arkham Asylum and have Batman just beat up a bunch of fucking dudes for a few hours? Because that's maybe all you want. That's really what you want to see.
Better than
you want
anything.
to see dark and rain, and that can be your thing. Go do that. For the people that want...
To see the very first Justice League movie where Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman come together as the Trinity that they are? Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Clusterfuck.
Yeah. But, hey, like what you like. I feel, I've always got to say, man, if this was your favourite movie of the year, good on you, man. Fucking more power to you.
Please write in and tell us why. Please write in. Please. Anyway, moving on from that.
Absolutely.
Let's do some Crossing Some Streams.
Let's cross the streams! Yeah, I'll go first because I got mine ready to roll.
So do I.
All right. Do you want to go first then?
I'll go first. Right. Mine, and which I know that you definitely would be a big fan of.
What's that?
Is mine is being streamed on SBS On Demand, ladies and gentlemen, because it is free, and it is the Jesus Christ, Nicholas, you forgot the year. You can tell me the year, Tyson. It was the Frank Oz version of, I think it was the 80s, of The Little Shop of Horrors.
86.
Go on, give it a shot. 86. This is streamable, people, and if you haven't seen this thing, it is, I'm going to say it's a tour de force, because this thing was another one that was secretly it was like, I didn't watch it a lot when I was a kid because I was so fucking scared of it, but when I got a little bit older and my love of musicals really came into fruition you bastard, 86, well done. Then it got played on a loop, like especially for Levi Stubbs. Like, seriously, the man he's the embodiment of Audrey 2 for me. This thing is so stylized, and with the organ in the background and the fact that it is a set, and with the scariness of the plant.
Such good plant. Such good plant design. Such good
the
practical effects.
The puppetry in this thing is
amazing.
just fucking insane. And you're getting in there, you're getting some comedy relief from John Candy, from Bill Murray, from
my man Steve Martin.
Your man Steve Martin. Rick Moranis, who, do you know, I read an article recently that Rick Moranis is literally sitting by the phone waiting for people to call him. That's why he doesn't do movies anymore. Did you know that?
Why?
Because no one casts him anymore. That's it.
Oh,
he didn't just have a break. He went off and did country music for a while, right? And then...
You're talking about Steve Martin.
No, I'm talking about Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis quit because his wife got really sick. So he quit to look after his kids.
Yeah, but then...
She's passed away.
Yeah, but then he got back into it and went...
I don't think he's done anything since then.
No, because no one calls him anymore. But anyway, that's not the point.
He's done some voice acting for some Brother Bear related material.
Oh, there you go.
Since 1997 or something.
I love this movie. I always
thought it was by personal choice.
It's so good. I loved it. I will always love this thing. Ellen Green doing her shtick as Audrey and just like putting her stamp on that role. And if you do Audrey another way, it's kind of bizarre if you do the stage show now.
She originated the role anyway, but it is
the stamp.
The way to do it.
It is the way to do it. Yeah, you don't really see another version, and if you do, good on you. That's great, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But yeah, man, Little Shop of Horrors, SBS On Demand. If you haven't seen it, watch the shit out of it. It is a different ending to the musical, and I actually prefer this one. I prefer this ending.
This is the happy ending, isn't it?
This is the happy ending. Yeah. You are able to see if you have the DVD. You are able to see.
Yeah, the special edition that came out not long ago has the original ending.
Original ending?
Well, the original ending, as in from the stage show. Yeah, but they changed due to fucking test audiences and stuff.
Test audiences.
Look, I don't know. I'm kind of either or. I'm interested to know which version's on Netflix though, because for it to be the HD transfer, it might actually be the original. You never know.
It's not on Netflix. It's the...
Oh, sorry, on SBS On Demand. Yeah, sorry. I'd be interested to see if maybe they've uploaded the director's cut or not. That'd be cool to see. Because maybe they have. Because I believe Frank Oz actually wanted the original ending, and now...
Oh, really?
Yeah. And if...
Man, Frank Oz.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. It'll be cool to see.
Does it say on SBS? Did you check?
No, I haven't checked.
I will check while you talk about yours.
Well, mine's going to be really quick because it's a movie I've already talked about, but it's just popped up on Netflix, so you can now watch it for free in case you didn't want to watch it last time I talked about it. Ooh. And that's the movie Beyond Skyline. We talked about this towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
What started off as like, hey, should we watch this? I think it could be crap and fun, and like aliens, it'll be silly fun. Turned out to be a really fucking great time watching a movie.
Like an action-packed
It is really, really fun. The action sequences, especially the finale, are just out of this world. Frank Grillo putting in a really substantially solid performance. He's becoming the kind of my go-to guy for if you cast Frank Grillo as the tough guy lead in your action film.
Yeah,
chances are I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
I am just a huge fan of his work. The finale where it's Frank Grillo, what's his name? Uko Awai. I should get it right because I don't want to say his name wrong. That's rude.
I think I should see Frank. I want to see Frank Grillo.
Iko Awai.
Yeah, keep going.
And one of the other guys who pops up in Yayan Ruyan from the Raid movies, all in various forms of fucking weaponry. Basically, just handing asses to these aliens, like handing their asses to them.
Handing their asses
is. It just has to be seen. It's bonkers. So yeah, it's for free now. So no excuses. Get on it, watch it. It's really fun. Even if you've watched that first one and you thought it was garbage.
What was it called?
Beyond Skyline.
Beyond Skyline.
Yeah. So yeah, ignore it if you've happened to watch the crappy first one.
I'm going to give it a watch. I'm going to give it a watch. Do you know why? Because I like Frank Grillo, and I think him and what's the guy who was in Walking Dead who plays the Punisher now? What is his name? I think they should play brothers, and I think there should be an action movie with both of them in it.
John Bernthal.
Yeah. I think that would rock.
That's not bad, actually.
There you go. See?
Yeah,
I can write a fucking movie. We're going to write a movie.
With the two of them in it.
With the two of them in it. Based in...
It's a tough off.
The John Wick world. Yeah. Look, if everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, we might as well make some bucks while we're at it.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Not wrong.
Not wrong.
That's going to wrap us up, I think, Nicholas.
That's all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a fan of what you've listened to and you would like to hear more, listen to more, talk to us, you can jump on the social medias. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We are gramming it up. But
we are gramming it up.
You can write it. You can write us. Sorry, I thought of something that was funny.
Keep it to yourself. Come on, you got shit to do.
Sorry.
Let's go.
You can write us an email at nicknysandvideotape@gmail.com.
Yes.
Please do that.
We'd love to hear from you.
And just so if you are listening to this and you trying to tell friends about it, which I was trying to do the other day, I spell Nick N-I-C. There's no
Good
K
point.
at the end of my name. Because there's no K in Nicholas. So
yeah,
it's
if you
NIC.
have been trying to find us and looking up N-I-C-K, you won't find us.
You won't find us, yeah. Which maybe I shot myself in the foot, but to be honest, I'm going to spell my name the way I want.
Yeah, you spell it the way you like,
exactly.
my man. Yeah, just on top of that, we have a very loyal listener base, which is amazing.
Thank you, guys.
It is not an incredibly large listener base, but it is incredibly loyal. We seem to see a very consistent number of downloads, which is fantastic. Which
guys,
means we love you so much for continually listening. What we would love to obviously expand our audience.
Yeah.
So anything that you guys can do to help us with that. If it's tell a friend, if it's just happen to be sharing an episode that you love on social media, going into that app and just clicking that 5 stars rating. We've had some really nice ratings and some reviews that are genuinely I'm shocked some of them that I read and I'm like, that must be someone I know. And it's not.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, oh, wow.
Is it really?
There are reviews there from people that we just are strangers.
You're talking about on iTunes?
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's wonderful. It's really lovely. And I appreciate that. We appreciate that so much.
Oh, absolutely.
But any time you can take out of your day just to briefly say, hey, you like podcasts? Have a listen to these guys. We would appreciate it more than anything else.
Even if that person isn't into podcasts, this is your chance to let them know because podcasts are really good.
Podcasts are great, man. Radio's dead.
Radio is totally dead, especially because morning radio, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sick of seeing radio announcers on fucking bus stops and buses
billboards,
and trams
man.
and what the fuck is this
It's the
country
last
gone
gasp,
to?
my man. It's the last
Thank
gasp.
God for that.
They know that podcasts are taking hold and they're trying really hard. They're spending the money they can.
They're going to die in the ass. But yeah, tell the person about. Don't say, you don't have to say, oh, my friends, I listen to Nick Tyson Videotape. Tell that. Well, it would be lovely if you could, but tell them about what do they like? Because I know that my mum listens to cooking ones, and then there's my wife is all over true crime, and I love that as well. But
make sure they listen to us too.
But make sure they listen to us too, because we would love that.
Yeah,
it's up to you, listeners. Help us out. We would love you too.
Next week.
Ooh, we're doing a sort of a safe one, aren't we? Because the week after is going to be a little intense.
Yeah, so obviously we're 2 episodes away from our Infinity War episode. We're roughly about 8 days away from the release of Infinity War, which is pretty crazy to think about, really.
That's a bit intense for me, yeah.
Yeah, which is going to be, this is, for us, it's 10 years in the making, longer, really, because the anticipation leading up to, the idea of this kind of universe is obviously something that's been in our heads since we were kids.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to return to one of our other segments.
Yeah.
Which is always a crowd favourite.
I love that we're doing segments.
Yeah, I like getting back into our segments.
Yeah.
But we're doing a We Rank Stuff. We Rank Stuff where we basically just pick a topic and we rank it.
We do.
We've done a few top 10s of various years. We've done
We've done actors with Leah.
We've done an actor, one with our friend of the podcast, Katie Weston.
Yeah.
Which you can find. There's some really funny stuff in that episode. I thoroughly recommend it. Go and have a listen. It's really funny. We rank our top 5 favourite Leo DiCaprio performances.
Yeah. I literally laughed out loud on the train and scared the shit out of the woman next to me.
But this week we're actually going to do one of our top 10 favourite movies of a year.
I like
it.
What year are we doing?
Well, we've done 99.
We've done 99.
We've done 2004.
4, right. What are we doing?
We're going further into the future again.
Yep.
We're going to do 2007. 2007.
Ooh.
So a pretty quick Google and you'll see some pretty big movies came out in 2007, people. So
is this going to be hard?
I think it's going to be tough. I think there's going to be some real interesting things to talk about in 2007.
Christ.
And some that perhaps people think would have made our list that will be nowhere near it.
I like that.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to this. I love when we get to do this. There's always some fun stuff to be had because not only do we do some rankings, we tend to play some fun games and kind of look at some forgotten movies from the year and kind of hang shit on some things, some Oscar bait movies and stuff.
I've got that game. I've got the iBags, the tagline game.
You got the tagline game this time?
Right, no, because I did it last time. You were really good. Yeah, because I'm shit at that game.
Okay.
You're good at it.
I'll get a good one for you.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, tune in next week for 2007.
Nice. I have no idea.
It was fucking...
Fuck, really?
Yeah. Think about that too much.
Okay.
Guys.
I've been Nicholas.
And I've been Tyson.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.